The 1st of October is when these guys first took to the track back at the Circuit of the Americas. Since then, we have traveled around the world to experience some of the touring cars' best. Throughout, we have boasted a roller coaster season, but tonight it comes down to this. 39 laps, 2 races, 1 season finale, and 1 very special Oran Park to host it all. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel and to the season finale of the United Touring Championship. My name is Zach Sweeney. I'm alongside Dean Hopton in the commentary booth. Dean, welcome in, and hopefully tonight bodes slightly less chaotic than last time you joined us.
Yeah, well, they're exactly right. Well, hopefully a little bit of chaos is good chaos that you want to be expecting for the final rounds here. In Australia, of course, back again, Phillip Island previously. Heading up to New South Wales, just outside of Sydney. Of course, unfortunately, this track has closed down since 2010 there because they've elected that real estate's a little bit more precious than racing tracks, but it used to host, obviously, the V8 supercars and even the Formula One World Championship back in Formula 5000s. They're pretty much over and done with the practice session. We'll get underway with the qualifying coming up very soon there, Zachary. But how about those driver standings, mate? How close is this?
Well, due to the sort of weird nature of the last couple of rounds, we've been missing a number of people, and that is promoted Lewis Archer to the top of the standings with 166 points. Since the previous time we checked them, up 4 places. Scott McFall in second place, Callum Reed-Garton and Olivier Bolton, your P3 and P4. Chris Byron rounds off the top 5. Those are the only guys in realistic contention for this title, particularly that fight between Lewis Archer and Scott McFall, 8 points apiece between the pair of them. And well, over the course of the 2 races, that definitely can come down, particularly with Scott McFall's pace. He has to deliver tonight, but all Lewis Archer has to do is stay relatively close to Scott McFall. Because of the fact we only have 11 cars taking to the track today, he physically can't lose that many points. All he has to do is stay within a couple of places of Scott McFall, and he should, in theory, be able to keep that championship lead. But never say never when it comes to the United Touring Championship. Also, Callum Reed-Garton and Olivier Bolton, 147 and 146 between those two. Definitely a good fight for third. Coming over to the constructor standings, the team's championship. Kudaworks lead the way, 306 points, 2 points clear of Sim District Vibe Esports, and of course, Blade Designs round off your top 3 of 252. The fight definitely between the top 2 in both the constructors and in the drivers. But hey, 2 races, 16 and 23 laps in length. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen and will happen, usually does happen in motor racing. But qualifying is about to happen currently at the moment that we'd like to see. These cars around this classic track in Australia used to be very, very old school track, but it's about 2.62 kilometers. We'll go right on board, I think, at the moment. I think the Dutch driver there of Danny, and my apologies, there is somebody on a PA speaker outside there. He's just saying, make sure you keep your dingoes and your kangaroo pets under a leash because you don't want them traveling across the track. What you can see currently at the moment is Danny Blake getting ready on his outlap. What do you think about the elevation changes of this track? Are amazing. Of course, it has you going underneath the Oklahoma Bridge. We're going over the Oklahoma Bridge right now. As you can see, Danny is. You're going to sweep your way to 6 and 7. Of course, a couple of series of righties, and that's the Foster's dip right here. As it dips back down, swings over to the left. Not a lot of overtaking opportunities through these S's into the Momo corner. Essentially up at the top of the elevations as it sweeps back down again into the O'Brien dodging right there. That's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a blind corners. A lot of people have run off into the gravel trap right there. Making around the Ricardo corner, and that's your lap around. Well, you can give us a lap guide as well, too, I say there, Zachary.
Yeah, I mean, Oran Park is a circuit that has got a lot of character, a lot of elevation changes, a lot of ups and downs. That final corner at the Recaro corner is going to be deadly, especially in these front-wheel drive touring cars. Very, very tricky. Turn 1, the sweeper in towards the Coca-Cola corner. You really do sort of just have to brake as late as you can. Aim yourself at the apex and just trust that the cars go into grip. And then pretty much for the entirety of the circuit is just all about momentum. It's trying to keep the minimum speed as high as possible because pretty much for the entire second part of the lap, you have to just keep the speed up and go from each corner, use each corner as a stepping stone, particularly as you go through Foster's Dip, rise up towards Momo Corner, and then into the penultimate S's, where you just literally go right then left to Brian Crest as well. The track map really does not do it justice. It shows it as a flat circuit, which it most certainly is not. You go over that right-hander and you are completely blind into the left as we see Lewis Archer work his way through there. And then you dip back down for Recaro. it's a very, very tricky corner. There's Olivier Boltonic in the Audi, setting the pace, 6.5 tenths clear of Scott McFall as they stand. What can Lewis Archer do on this run to the line? 1 minute 10 lap time so far is the standards, and it's so far only P7, 2 seconds off the pace. He surely has to find more.
Yeah, I think this is his warm-up currently at the moment. It's a pretty long straightaway here. They carry a lot of speed down into turn 1 and the 2 left-handers, and there's a fairly lot of overtaking that'll happen around there. It's punishing on those rear tires, which tend to get punished on the right rear as they've worked their way very hard around here. Often you'll find it's a case of the walking wounded at the end of it, as they're slipping and sliding all over the place. These teams and drivers are able to look after their tire conditions best. We'll be in good shape at the end for our feature race with that drive-through penalty. But back down a pit lane, it's very, very difficult, isn't it? Because it's all that, if you really look at the track map there, that pit lane entrance is essentially out of that final corner 12, and you rejoin in turn 1 to that high-speed sweeping section. That's where that's where it becomes very, very difficult. So the rejoining onto the track has to be timed perfectly, and whether or not you can get yourself out ahead of your components when it comes to the feature race is going to be key. That's what Lewis is going to be looking to do as he's on his hot lap. Get it close to that wall, hug it like your favorite grandma, as Martin Brundle would say. Also, buy it flowers and dinner too, and make sure you don't get too close to the wall, otherwise you'll be in a bit of trouble. And that's Lewis's time currently at the moment there, Zach.
Yeah, about 6 tenths of a second off Olivier Boltonic, who is still setting the pace out in front. Actually, I say that, no, it's 6 tenths up until Danny B. Those times are the intervals between drivers, not the overall difference to the lead. So Olivier Boltonic, a 1:10.0 is the benchmark. Lewis Archer, unfortunately, only able to set a 1:11.1. So just over a second left on the table for Lewis Archer to make the difference. There is the discrepancy between the leader and the rest of the field. So you can see that Lewis Archer 1.1 seconds back, very close between himself and Dominic Herbert just in behind there in that fight for fifth. Same to Chris Byram, all of them on a 1:11.1 as they stand. But yeah, everyone's just trying to set the pace, set themselves into some good qualifying orders. But again, we've seen time and time again this season that it is not always about the qualifying whatsoever. It does always come down to how you present yourself over the course of the race, particularly in these touring cars. It's so chaotic, so easy to make those moves that at the end of the day, if you've got the pace and consistency, it doesn't really matter where you start as long as you can move your way forward and stay with that front group.
And I was about to say, and I was going to also Phil across the pond. I did beat you again, mate, out there in the chat. I are paying attention to the chat. Welcome along if you are in the chat. Say hello. And please give us a thumbs up here for the finale at the United Esports. And I was about to say, I think I was talking to you in the pre-show there when we were not live on the air there, saying that my GTR Skyline back in, and I GTR 32 Skyline back in the 91, 92, 93 when they did the supercars around here, dominated. I wonder if my GTR Skyline at the moment could beat these touring cars, but perhaps maybe not. 2022.
Not if you're driving.
2022 touring cars versus a 93 or whatever Skyline. Scott goes top of the timesheets, and he needs to, because he needs to take everything he possibly can out of Lewis Archer for these races to perhaps win the championship.
Yeah, for sure. He's putting his best foot forward, and that's exactly what you need to do when you are slightly behind going into the final round. For him, he's not really got a lot to lose. For him, it's like either win the championship or I finish second, or I finish third, finish fourth. There's not really much difference. Second, third, fourth, you've still lost the championship. So you might as well just go in with nothing to lose. Whereas for Lewis Archer, the world is on his shoulders in terms of fighting for that championship. He's been given this opportunity arguably on a silver platter, because the fact that Scott McFall, Olivier Boltonic haven't actually arrived to a lot of races so far this season. Boltonic missed, of course, the last 2 rounds, I believe, of Phillip Island and at the Red Bull Ring. So, you know, he's lost a number of points there, has the Belgian versus Lewis Archer. But hey, you've got to be you've got to be in it to win it. That's exactly what Lewis Archer has done. Was able to bode quite well last time out at Phillip Island as well. So he's made his own luck up there now in the championship lead. Is going to do his best to keep it. But with Scott McFall, Olivier Boltonic, it is going to be very, very hard to stay close enough to win this race. However, as it stands, Scott McFall on a 1:09.9 leading the way on pole position. If the race finished as they are now, Scott McFall would be getting 18 points. Lewis Archer 13. That is a difference of 5 points, which is already closing the gap to over less than half of what it originally was. So Scott McFall definitely done a fantastic job. However, Boltonic, it's chopping and changing between the two Audis in terms of that fight for pole. They are both improving lap by lap, and it's going to be great to see how the qualifying session concludes.
You can see the back of the grid there if we had a full grid, of course. But it's going to coming down to the... Looks like Lewis is going very slow. He's just slowing it down there perhaps to get ready for another race. So he's on the racing line at the moment. Not too much of a problem, but coming out... He's going back in the pit lane. Yes, but yeah, obviously at this time of year, as the season's wrapping up and we're going into Christmas time, everybody gets busy. That's why the grids start becoming a little bit smaller than what they usually are at the start. That's just normal. That happens in every league, everywhere in the world. This time of year, of course, people are more jolly for Santa Claus than they are for motor racing, and why not? Are they going to have some of the those juicy gear that you can get for your racing rigs for Christmas? I don't know. Maybe on some of their Christmas list, but at the moment, we know for a fact, Zach, that even rhymes, that we know what Lewis and Scotty want for Christmas, don't we?
Yeah, it's the United Touring Championship of season number 2. That is definitely going to be a top of their list, I'm sure. It's scary that Christmas is next week. Has that ever crossed your mind, that the fact it's literally like,
oh wow,
what is it now, 8 days? It's next Sunday. I just think that's so scary.
I forgot. I know for a fact that there's a couple of retired ladies next door. We do a Christmas thing. There's going to be a trailer thing that we're on. It's all going to be decked out Christmas lights. I got a program and we're going to be sitting on there with music, and I've got an elf suit to wear, apparently. And then Mrs. Claus, and yeah. So I know that's coming up, and I know how close Christmas will be at that point. To bring the friendly cheer, of course, to the children in the community that we're in. To give away little presents and things like that, and just a Christmas cheer. That's what it's about. Oliver's got a cheer on his a smile on his face more than anything, but as he's beating Scotty, and Lewis is well, that's the thing. Lewis is down in P4, and you know he's got a little bit of time, not a lot, about 5 minutes to produce a good qualifying result. He wants to be on the front row for sure, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. As I say, you've got to put your best foot forward. You've got to make sure that you're in it to win it. Coming towards, I say, the end of qualifying, of course, we can't quite see what the session timings are at the moment, but you would imagine it is sort of towards the back end of qualifying into definitely the latter half of it. But yeah, Lewis Archer at the moment riding on the top of his car, trying to improve upon his time right now. There you can see how long left they have of qualifying. Apparently 18 minutes. So whether we've had an extended qualifying session for this round, I'm not too sure.
It's that one. It's 11 or 15.
There we go, 11.
So, yeah, it's not quite showing the right thing. So. It's coming up.
There we go.
Sorry.
Yeah. So we've got about 3 minutes left of qualifying. Let's leave it at that. Left to go. Of course, they get a 15-minute qualifying session. 3 of them left to go. Lewis Archer trying to improve, trying to use the full extent of the track to the best of his ability. However, Oran Park doesn't boast much in terms of in the sense that a lot of exploitable track limits. It very much is just the curb and then the grass, and that is it. So definitely a driver's track.
It kicks up a lot of the dirt onto the track as well, too, which basically narrows it in certain corners. In fact, in the V8 Supercars, or the Supercar Series, they used to actually penalize some of the drivers for kicking up too much dirt because, you know, once again, your racing line narrows because if you hit the dirty stuff, you're in big trouble. And in the sim world here, it's still going to occur, of course, because iRacing will throw that into the factor, but because there's a lot less cars than usually 30 or so on a grid, you won't have that much of a problem, but still, it remains a issue. So far, so good, I'd have to say, Zach. Nobody's really had any adventures off to the barriers and stuff like that. Touch wood.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, it's that was good timing. That was great.
I was going to say, great casters think alike, don't we?
Exactly. We're all very bad at maths, but we all know exactly what the other person is thinking at exactly the right time. So yeah, it just goes to show we're a good pairing, I suppose, and we get to do that over the next couple of days as well. We get the whole weekend together.
Yeah, final time as well for the season. No doubt we'll be casting again in the future. And of course, Mr. James would usually be here, but James has got the weekend off. We've given James the weekend off. He deserves it. He puts a lot of work in. I don't know how many times that man casts a week, 2 to 3 times all the time, but it's good to see that the JPB network is growing and growing. And with the support of everybody out there in the chat too, so give us a thumbs up, please, if you are loving the broadcasting, and also if you're loving the drivers doing their best all season long. Still don't know who's going to win. And look at where I'm watching Lewis. Still trying to find that extra time.
Yeah, I don't know how much more there is. I mean, obviously, there's at least 8/10ths worth of time because Olivia Boltonic has done it, and if Olivia Boltonic can do it, then so too can Lewis Archer. I'm not entirely sure. Of course, this is a question I posed. I think it was the last week or so. I'm not sure if you know. Of course, that Lewis Archer's on Honda Civic at the moment. In real life, they would have VTEC. Is that transferred into iRacing? Does it have a similar sort of process?
That's a good question, actually. There's one for the chat out there. SL TV says, good luck, Gibbo. Not the fastest, but we love you, buddy. What's he referring to with Gibbo?
Stuart Gibbons, maybe? Yeah, there he is.
Stuart Gibbons. Let me show Stuart Gibbons real quick there, because you called him out. There you go. There's Stewie.
Here he is.
Yep, not the quickest, but he's in it. And you got to be in it to win it. And reverse grid, of course, coming down to the situation for the feature race. Could very well give Stuart that top run there.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, you got to be in it to win it. 3 seconds off the pace, though. At the moment, Stuart Gibbons has quite a bit of improvement to do. And it does seem that Honda haven't got the best of car here at Oran Park. I mean, Lewis Archer up there in 4th, but other than that, they make up the entire back 6 of the pack. So I don't know how that bodes well for the Hondas. I mean, of course, there are a lot more Hondas than anything on the grid. So, of course, naturally, there are going to be more Hondas further down than anything. But maybe because if the variable valve timing of VTEC is involved in iRacing, it's not the longest. You're not at the top end of your rev range for very, very long here at Oran Park. So I suppose that does play into a factor of things. Of course, not being able to keep it as quick. But, hey, that's...
Ooh, here we go.
Changing. Oh, that is a...
save.
Good save almost.
Absolutely.
Almost.
Yeah, you slide into there at that point. He's got the free get out of jail free card, of course, and just can zoom back into the pit lane during qualifying. Can't do that during the race. But it gives us a bit of an entertainment, a bit of Tokyo Drift here down under in Australia. As you mentioned, there's 3 manufacturers that are in this. Look at that. They all take a little bit of a tap on that wall. I'll tell you what, right now, if you want tickets to this track, I would be on that corner right there. Watching them come right next to that wall would be fantastic. Outlaps for... Oh, Scotty is out, and Scotty wants to try to take it away from Olivia. See how it doesn't get as close to the wall there? Maybe maximizing his exit speed for the Scotsman. I was about to tell you as well, too. Now, I know this for the supercars, and I'd imagine it's very similar for the touring cars. Your throttle, you don't take it about 1/3 throttle max throughout this whole track, believe it or not.
What?
Yeah, 1/3 of your full throttle.
Are you sure?
Well, the supercars they took it at 1/3 of their full throttle. Yes, believe it or not, because of these, a lot of these corners are just consistent corners. It's only the main straightaway, remember, that you come out of 12 all the way down to 1. We'll see.
Interesting.
We'll see. That's interesting, because that was the supercars, and these are touring cars, a little bit different.
Supercars got a bit more juice.
Probably.
I think,
You're right on that one. Yeah. This track did close down in 2010, so it's been a few years since.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Technology's come a bit of a way. Right now, Oran Park is a housing estate. Sydney got a little bit too big so they were like, no, let's close down Oran Park.
But you know what's really cool, Zach, is the fact that they've still kept they've changed the names, the street names. So you've got like the main straight, that's one of the streets, and you've got names of some of the drivers that have won here in the past as all the other street names and stuff like that. So it's
nice.
You can imagine having your house like that's right here on the main straightaway, or something, basically where the pit garage was or something like that. It's like, yeah, hey, I live in the pit lane.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I guess that is a nice touch for sure. Getting SRL TV. Sam's there as well. Good luck to you too. So we got a neutral fan up there, Sam J. Smith, joining us for this race. I don't believe they've been here for the entire season at all. So joining us for the finale, which is nice to see. Get as many cars onto the grid as we possibly can. This qualifying session is going on for quite some time, which is a little bit confusing because usually it ended 3 minutes ago. That has not quite been the case on this particular occasion. That's why you can still still see Olivier Bolsnick and Sam Smith out on outlaps as it stands. Scott McFall still having ample opportunity to try and bridge the gap. 2.5 tenths is the gap between himself and the pole sitter of the reigning champion, Olivier Bolsnick, at the final corner of Oran Park here for Scott McFall on the run to the line. Is it going to be enough to try and get himself into the 109.6? That doesn't quite seem to be the case. A 110.6, so very, very slow indeed. There is Olivier Bolsnick just in front of him there. You can see the two Audis following each other very, very closely. Two teammates as well. Best person to follow really has to be Olivier Bolsnick. If there's anyone that to follow around the circuit, it's him.
We're going to look over his rear wing at the moment. As you can see, Scotty following him for the Sim District team. Working together, perhaps getting a little bit of a tow. Trying to find anything you can. Of course, you're looking at 2 tenths, 1 tenths. Anything is good. Time is either on your side or it's against you when it comes to motor racing. Over the bridge. There's actually a bridge street as well too. I think they've called that now. So take that down. It's and there's a little that kind of reminds me, if you see that little yellow, the white little runoff in the runoff area there, probably where they have a cameraman as well. Very Interlagos, because they have a little lone palm tree in Interlagos circuit that's inside the runoff area as well. So I didn't realize I have one here too. But he's the man close to the wall. That's where they're going to get that paint scraping. But hey, scrape a little bit of paint off the car. Maybe you'll lighten the weight a little bit too.
That's what the Mercedes had to do. That's why they dubbed the Silver Round to strip off the
Same thing
white
of
paint.
American Airlines as well too. That's the reason why they didn't had the silver on and half painted the plane too, because it also saved them a lot of money on a little bit of weight, of course, in the aircraft, as well as money for painting.
Every little helps, I suppose, when it comes to weight saving. If you can save it, you might as well, especially when it comes to the fine margins of motorsport and, of course, aviation as well. Very fine margins, because motorsport and aviation, they're the same. They're just flipped upside down relative to each other. Of course, flipped an F1 car upside down, it would take off, pretty much.
Was that done?
Well, in theory.
Wasn't that done in a tunnel one time? I have to check that one. I don't know, because, you know, you have to do your research these days, because social media and all that sort of jazz can quite trick you, especially with modern day graphics and things like that. But I thought there was a Formula 1 car that was driven through a tunnel, but I have to rely on somebody out
obviously
there.
The whole lubrication and oil system drained to the bottom of the car. And
you talked to Adrian Newey as well too. Obviously, is one of those aerodynamics, because he first got into aircraft aerodynamics in his very early career and elected to turn to motorsport, which is a good thing because he gets probably one of the biggest paychecks for any engineer in the world for motor racing. Yeah. That's for sure. Who does not want Adrian? Oh yeah. But it's just the problem is when you do go tangent with your teammates, is that if you do make a mistake, it compromises your other teammates' lap as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the moment they're fighting for pole, so I don't know how nice they are going to be to each other in terms of teammates. But yeah, that was very, very sideways for Olivier Bolsnick. Just goes to show how difficult Oran Park can be. As sometimes if you do let it, yeah, I'm sure that is going to be a theme that we see carried forward into the race. Over the next 16 laps, of course, as soon as when qualifying decides to end. I don't know when that is going to be.
I don't have the information, unfortunately. You can see these lights there, so big LED screen there reminding him shift now. Sorry, LCD, not LED. And unfortunately, my remaining time on all the goodies that I have in the broadcast room here doesn't show that. So all I can show you is the elapsed time. So we don't know as much as anybody else doesn't know, but I'll tell you what, there are still cars on track and we're still being entertained by them. Lewis is still currently running in P4 and not being able to find the extra pace and returning back to the pit lane. Yeah,
for him, again, Lewis Archer is the big man at the top of the UTC. Both in the championship and of course in the admin ranks as well. He makes sure everything is logistically sorted out and runs as smoothly as possible. Well, he has said that the ending of season 2 has been fairly disappointing. They're going to refresh and come back strong for season 3, and I am all here for it because of the way that when the UTC is at its peak, it is so good. I mean, one of the highlights of the season for me definitely was backing Donington. I know you weren't here for it, Biggles, but Donington, we had such a good race over the course of the pair of them. It was just action from start to finish. All the back in coach as well, the 1st of October to single us off for season 2. Again, a great way to kickstart the season. Over the course of those 2 races, it was just carnage and chaos all the way through, and that was when we had sort of 20-25 cars on the grid. So fingers crossed that for season 3 we can boast something similar, if not better than that. But again, that does remain to be seen. But again, I cannot wait to see what happens over the course of the off season in towards season 3. I'm sure we will be here ready for that here on the JP Broadcasting channel. So do make sure to keep an eye out, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications to be up to date with anything that goes on in the world of sim racing, because we cover a fair bit of it, a range. I think we do a bit of open wheels, we do GTs, we do radicals, we do the touring cars, we do a whole lot of stuff here, and of course whatever will tickle your fancy stuff pretty much every evening. I'm pretty sure new stuff of course starting over the new year and all things like that. So yeah, really looking forward. A lot of exciting prospects, and most particularly with the UTC as well. So fingers crossed we can have a lot of exciting action to make sure these viewers at home are entertained.
Absolutely great call as well, Zachary. Basically, it's got 4 wheels. We'll cast it. I never
much.
casted a 2-wheel with the bikes. That'll be a whole different category. But 4 wheels, yes. And
I would like to do some bikes. I think bikes. Sure. I mean, there's no real like sim that portrays them. Of course, you got the MotoGP games and sort of those games, but you haven't got like an iRacing or any. Well, I think of course actually have a couple of mods for bikes, but other than that, you don't really see any mainstream esports do them because bike sims aren't big. Like you don't see people with a full-on like bike rig in their house and
that's you hit the nail on the head on that one, because you need the rig for a bike, don't you? Because you need to lean into it. That's how the bikes work, and unless you have the rig to do it, it's too hard to simulate it. That's properly. Yeah. And so, of course, but the world of esports is blowing up, and the sim rigs that you see for people these days is absolutely amazing. So good now that you even seeing a lot of esports racers venturing into real racing and not finding it as difficult as what it would be starting from like an early career in karting and things like that. So that's kind of the future that's happening, because once again, you've got Fanatec wheels now that started as a little company just making racing wheels in the garage, and now they're manufacturing racing wheels for not only esports but for real racing cars. So it's a tipsy-turvy world now.
Is it the BMW or the Bentley that has the?
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? Yeah,
it's the rim that they use on their direct drive wheelbases and things. It transfers directly from the real world into the sim world, and I think that is a good symbol of the bridge between real life and sim racing at this point in time, because of course 10-15 years ago you'd have just had like sort of F1 2009 on your little Wii control or whatever, no force feedback, no nothing, just going off the visual references that you've been given. But now you see people using sim as a way to practice. Max Verstappen in his downtime going on iRacing, using that as a tool to train. A lot of people, I mean, we see Jimmy Broadbent now is the 2022 Britcar Praga Cup champion, and he started out just in his shed, in his mum's shed that they bought in the garden on a sim rig. James Baldwin, 2019-2020 world's fastest gamer, went into the British GT, 4th place in the championship, won a race and got a podium on his first result. There's Olivier Boltonic, nice save, good one. That was a nice one indeed, managing to keep it pointing in the right way. But the world of esports racing has come a long way. For sure, and as you rightly say, it can now start to creep in as sort of the budget entry-level way into the ladder of motorsports, because it's such an exclusive industry that if your if your parent isn't a millionaire, or if you haven't got the backing of a manufacturer, you are really going to struggle to succeed. Whereas now esports gives you that opportunity to bridge that gap, because unlike say football where you've got the FIFA games, sim racing, you're turning a wheel, you're pushing pedals, you are still doing the same fundamental things that you do in a real car.
Exactly, and with the rigs of these days too, even with the momentum sensors and stuff like that, that's all becoming cheaper and cheaper, because as they mass produce it, is turning $100,000 rigs down to $50,000 rigs down to $20,000 rigs, and probably $10,000 to $5,000 rigs in the future as they're more manufactured and more sold commonly, just like computer parts and stuff in the past. And what's also happening is that the money pool that's entering in esports is quite high, because of the fact that companies with advertising and all that, with the exposure, can then spend a lot less money in, because real motorsports, of course, as you know, is super expensive. You've got to get cars, you've got to travel, You got to set up all the stewards and all that sort of stuff. It's just very, very expensive. Esports, of course, you don't have all that, all those extra costs. So you can have all the drivers turn up, obviously, in the virtual world, and then you can start throwing some great advertising money in the pot. And you're going to see this trend between esports being as popular as real racing sports. I'd have to say in 5 to 10 years with the younger generation coming through, want to be a part of it. And top of the timeship goes Oliver a bit quicker. So we'll see, once again, because, that's the problem with motorsports. It's the expense.
Yeah.
And esports can counteract that crazy expensive cost. Chris is down in P5. Lewis is still in P4, not on track. We're still trying to get some feedback as to how long the session is.
Half an hour, we're being told.
Okay,
Lewis Archer said he copy-pasted everything from week to week, but unfortunately somewhere it's gone wrong. It's a half an hour qualifying session, 16 laps for race 1. He's being told that it's 23 laps for the feature, but apparently iRacing is saying 26. So again, we'll go into that. We'll see what gets thrown our way. We'll work with it. It's only a difference of sort of 3 laps or so. It's just that we've had double the length of a qualifying session, which I don't know. That's fair enough, I suppose. Yeah, they've got more time to take their laps. Unfortunately for us, it hasn't been a massive fluctuation in over the course of the last 15 minutes. No one's really improved that much. It's still Olivier Boltonic versus Scott McFall for the fight for pole, and that is now going to come to an end. Olivier Boltonic into the pit lane. No chance for them to set a lap. Same to Scott McFall. Danny Bleak still out there. Michael Lees escaping back to the pit lane. Same to Stuart Gibbons, now up to 8th place now. So about only 1.5 seconds off pole position. So he's been able to half the delta between himself and the pole sitter. That is definitely not a bad result so far. So Stuart Gibbons slowly and surely working his way up the time tower.
Bit of fan boost out there. I still do think, as the qualifying will be wrapping up any second now, I do still think that you should still be able to you should have to drive back in the pit lane and can't just pull off and disappear. Because if we are racing sims, and it's a real racing sim, it should also be simulated that you can't just disappear. You got to make your way back. And if you do DNF in the quali, if you have a bit of a tank slapper in a wall, that's it. But that's not my decision to make. But those qualifying results will be up in just a minute, my friend, for you to be able to go through. And of course, a bit of work to do for Lewis Archer in P4 when it does come up.
Of course, we'll talk through the qualifying order as soon as possible, but they have drawn to a close. This is how they rack up after what was meant to be 50 minutes, turned into half an hour. It will be Olivier Boltonic on pole for Sim District Vibe Esport. It's going to be a 1-2 for the team, with championship rival Scott McFall rounding off the front row of the grid. Danny Beek and Lewis Archer share row 2, with Chris Byron rounding off the top 5. Michael Lees P6, Sam J. Smith and Stuart Gibbons the 4th row. Dominic Herbert, Sean Roberts, your top 10, with Daniel Thomas rounding off the back of the grid there in P11. It is a fairly interestingly lined up grid, it must be said. Scott McFall is, of course, only 8 points off the championship leader of Lewis Archer as they run into these 2 races. Olivier Boltonic a little bit further off. We can see now 166 for Lewis Archer, 158 for Scott McFall, 146 for Olivier Boltonic. Going to be very difficult for them to get themselves back into contention. 20 points off the championship lead. So it is going to take a bit of a miracle, but starting on pole, they're doing all they can.
Absolutely right. You got to do all you can, and right now is where you got to earn your paycheck. As the grid will be gridding up, and we'll be getting ready to get our racing done for the first race, the sprint race, and then the feature race will be coming up after this one. Any predictions out there for you guys in the chat, guys and girls? Of course. Hello. What's going on? Hit those thumbs up buttons. I've only seen a couple of thumbs up there. You get ready. Over to you, Mr. Zachary, to call this.
The 5 red lights will soon illuminate your screen. Here they are. They go out. We signal ourselves underway for the first of 2 races to round off what has been a fantastic season 2 for the United Touring Championship. Olivier Boltonic leads us away. Scott McFall getting off to a pretty lackluster start. Lewis Archer already up into 3rd place ahead of Chris Byron, Michael Lees, Danny Bleak having a really poor start. They run their way through into the very fast left-hand kink of turn number 1. Olivier Boltonic looking back. There was a bit of a car off there. That is Sam Smith having an off into the gravel trap on this initial opening lap. So not everyone been able to make it through unscathed. This is Michael Lees trying to keep Danny Bleak at bay. To the inside goes the Monster Liveried car, running too wide as they run their way through, trying to stay in contention of the front 4. Danny Bleak up now into P5, but already losing 2 places on this opening lap. That is definitely not ideal.
Not ideal at all. Lewis is gained a position. That's ideal for him, of course, knowing he needs to get everything done. He can see the 2 teammates up the road that he needs to beat. don't absolutely need to be crunch those numbers, of course, but that's both. And you know that the Sim District Vibe esports teams are going to work together to try to cover him off. Further back, Stuart making a little bit of run here on Dominic for the GDRs. I get the GDRs, not the GDR Skylines, but the GDR Hondas. And they stay pretty much line astern on that one. But Olivier got the launch away, but once again, he's covered by his teammate. So he's looking okay at the moment, and he's got that buffer off Scotty there. But Scotty's in one. What do you think at the moment? Do you think Olivier will be yielding it all there to perhaps help Scott win a championship, considering the points are getting that close towards the end?
I don't know. I mean, Boltonic has always been the driver that, I mean, Scott McFall as well. They've all just not really been too focused on the team championship as such. They've all just been driving for themselves, getting one on the YouTube chat that people are predicting a Boltonic and McFall tangle with Mass Carnage and Stuart Gibbons to take the win. I don't think that is the most likely of situations to occur, but hey, weirder things have happened in the realm of motorsport. On to lap 2 of 16. Danny Bleak still fighting with Mikael Lees for the fringes of the top 5 over the Yokohama Bridge and in towards this right hand. A bit of a twitch on the rear end of Mikael Lees there. Well caught, but again, it's things like that that really tarnish your momentum because of the way this track ebbs and flows. You cannot be affording to lock up the rears and having to correct, because as soon as you correct, you lose time and then you have to regain that momentum.
I love that camera angle too as they drive over one of our expensive cameras trackside. Hopefully not, of course. We don't have to worry about that. But that's been a very nice, I'd have to say, kind way to start yourself in New South Wales, Australia, at Oran Park. Everybody, just a little bit of excitement there with, I think it was it Sam that ran off the track a little bit earlier on, who's running currently in P10, losing 3 positions. Here's your interval gap between the drivers as well, too, showing up there on the screen. You can see within a second of each other. And that's dropping Lewis Archer at the moment a little bit down. He's about a second and change.
Yeah, about what is it? About about 1.8 seconds off the front too. So not the most optimal start for Lewis Archer, but again for him, he's got 8 points in the bank, and as it stands, he will only be losing these 2 points at the moment to Scott McFall, which makes, you know, it's not ideal, but again, it's limiting the damage where he can. Only being 1 place behind is the best that he can ask for at this stage in time. If, of course, Olivia Bolton and Scott McFall come together, he's got to be there to pick up the pieces. Still run on board. This is Danny Bleak, been able to run in front of Mikael Lees just a little bit. Now onto the back of Chris Bime, well and truly in the slipstream. Scott McFall fastest on that previous lap, 110.7 versus Olivia Bolton's 110.8. Very, very close in that fight for the race lead. Are we going to see a send from Danny Bleak? No, not quite. Very sideways, bit of contact. Is he going to be able to save it, point to the right way? If he manages to do that, fair play. Just able to get it going, but a bit of contact there. That is so sketchy with how the nature of turn 1, and of course how it just runs straight in towards turn 2. You're on the brakes and you are always going to have a bit of a twitch. Still running side by side and even more contact.
That was a send. I was supposed to say he saved it. He lost the rear, but yeah, exactly. Elite Ego, and caught it right on camera at the right time, at the right place, as it now brings everybody else into play here. Stuart, of course, he's yelled Stewie. 8th position, you can see Mr. Danny Bleak up the road there for the Rockstar Sim Racing, the only Dutch driver on the grid. And I tell you what, Dutch, my friend, well, he won a Formula 1 championship, a double-time world championship with Dutch, and I've seen so many very quick, talented Dutch drivers now in the world of esports. Top of it too.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. The Dutch are very, very quick. I mean, you've got Jarno Wopmer in the world of F1 esports. You've got Nick de Vries for the Netherlands. You've got, the Dutch, they do boast some pretty good drivers out in the world. Those, again, seeing towards the front of the field, Scott McFall able to get in front of Olivier Bolton and continuing to set the benchmark in terms of pace, are now up to a 110.6. So Olivier Bolton having to relinquish the race lead as they run their way through. Danny Bleak, I've noticed he's got Max Verstappen written on the bonnet of his car. However, has a monster logo on the on his right hand side. That's a conflict of interest there from Danny Bleak.
I was about to say, you called that one, didn't it? Because Monster Energy sponsors Lewis Hamilton and of course Max Verstappen. But here we go. I love some of those opportunities out of the champion curve. And bang into the fence. And who was that into the fence?
That's Danny Bleak. That is Danny Bleak into the
yeah.
barrier, yeah. Oof. Similar to the conflict of interest on his bumper, he's had a conflict of interest with a fellow driver, found himself into the barrier, taken a while to get back going again in his Hyundai, yeah, that is a very damage-stricken touring car. Unfortunately, that is going to bode an end to his race number 1. Still promising prospects, though, for race 2 if he takes to the grid. Again, Olivier Bolsonaro, though, back on form in terms of the fast lap, reclosing that gap up to his teammate of Scott McFall. These guys are trading fastest laps, well, this is going to be a fight all the way to the end.
Just covering off Lewis, but yeah, wouldn't know how much they're going to be fighting between each other would be the key. Team orders at play, multi-21, perhaps? Seb, multi-21? In Australia, you would not be a popular character if you had an Australian driver. Of course, we have the Scott, the Belgium driver. You also, another Belgium, speaking of Belgium goalkeeper, of course, Mr. Thibaut Courtes loves his racing in the Formula 1 game. And he actually, because I've casted him before in some of the Formula 1 leagues, and he actually flew his rig down there to Qatar. But he couldn't actually race in it because he said the Wi-Fi was too bad to even try. But of course, when you're the goalkeeper of a major sports team, of course, and representing your country, he's got a few dollars in the bank to be able to afford that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, I want to do sim racing. Okay, let's get the top level of things and just do it how we like. Bit of a replay now. This is Sam Smith we're riding on board with, going into turn 1, the little left-hand kink, and had a bit of misfortune on the opening lap, did Sam Smith, and unfortunately not being able to bring it back onto the tarmac ready for the braking zone. Going on to the grass just a little bit, and that has unfortunately sent him around for the second time in this race. M2 Lewis Archer trying to struggle in terms of getting onto the back of the front 2 of Scott McFall, Olivier Bolsonaro. There is our current championship leader of Lewis Archer. However, is in a bit of no man's land, back 4 seconds to Chris Barham. So the fight really is in those front 2, which I guess we cannot complain about. However, the rest of the field fairly scattered.
They are quite scattered. You're right. See the gap differences between, as Danny Bleak's in the pit lane there. I don't think he's gonna, those repairs would be way too much to be able to do. But crucial points are up for grabs, remember, and think about the team's championship as well. So that battle is continuing. Lewis is probably, okay, I'd settle for that P3 because he's still going to get some great points. Remember, reverse grid, that'll help him out a little bit, because then at that point, if it stays the same right now, he's going to have to hold off both the Sim District Vibe eSport teams behind him for the feature race.
Yeah, he is. It's going to be a difficult task. But the thing is, his starting from third to last ahead of those two, he has to make sure he works his way forward very, very quickly, which unfortunately is something I think Lewis Archer does struggle with slightly. We saw it last time out at Phillip Island. It was himself trying to work his way towards the front. Did struggle a little bit to get through the pack. Lewis Archer is more consistent. Give him some clear track, he will drive quite well. He doesn't quite bode himself quite well when it comes to pack racing and things like that. So now or never is the time to learn, really. This is Mikael Lees having a bit of a look to the inside of Stuart Gibbons for 6th place. And you can see there the Englishman up the inside. Fairly easy affair for him on his bid to try and close back the gap to Dominic Herbert. Unfortunately, Mikael Lees back to where he started. But yeah, no, trying to work his way back towards the front of the field and improve upon where he was. Unfortunately, losing a couple of places at the start. Now he's recovered, but I guess recovering back to where you started 8 laps into the race is not what you want. Yeah, I mean, to each their own. And he's managed to maintain. He's not lost any places so far in this race. And when it comes to reverse grid race, as we say, still interesting prospects to be uncovered. Taking a bit of a replay here. This is what happened to Lewis Archer. Oh, what's happened?
Yeah, that's a little bit off track there as he's pushing. He's lucky as he's going to make his way through the S's. But just to show you the little bit of pressure that he's in, and that's just a little bit more time lost on that one. And chances of getting any further up into the grid, he's on the podium, of course, but chances of taking it to these two guys that are just maintaining the pace of this race, no problemo. In Australia, should be easy peasy for the Audi team. 9-16. I tell you, isn't that, if you look at that sector where they're all going through at the moment there as you go over the Yokohama Bridge and stuff like that, that's the highlight. That's the zone you get all the work done with your overtakes, isn't it? As well as you can make mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, Oran Park as a circuit in general is a circuit where you are quite prone to make mistakes. It is very, very tricky, particularly in these front-wheel drive touring cars. It is very easy to understeer off the circuit. It doesn't take much at all to see the rear, the front end of the car just completely drift out, particularly here at the Recaro corner, where you will just understeer into the barrier. 3 cars now, unfortunately, into the pit lane. Stuart Gibbons, Sean Roberts, and Danny Bleak all in, and all 3 of them, you would argue, are out of this race. Back to the fight for the front, though. Scott McFall still leads, 8 tenths clear of his teammate of Olivier Bolsnick on that last lap. 1:10.2, 1:10.4 for Olivier Bolsnick, so 2 tenths quicker on that previous lap. So Scott McFall definitely got the pace measure of the pair. However, Olivier Bolsnick able to keep him honest just by hammering that pressure in the slipstream in behind, and still contesting for that lead with 6 to go.
And in the chat, there's still predictions out there, isn't it? If I leave your name John there for SRTV, saying, is calling the contact between these 2 guys and Gibbo taking the win. Well, Gibbons, of course, is in the pit lane, so that might not be that... Well, if you're a betting man, I wouldn't be putting your betting on that. But if these 2 did take each other out, of course, well, then Lewis Archer will be the one that will grab that, because he's got Chris's teammate behind him, and it should not be able to put too much of a threat up. But these 2 drivers, doesn't it, Scott and Olivier, don't look like they're really fighting it out too for now at the moment. They're pretty comfortable. But again, still within a second the whole time is Olivier. Do you think he's going to look at making a move soon, perhaps? Because he is a little quicker through some of the sectors.
It depends where he can get that move done. Again, whether he is interested really in fighting his teammates so hard for this lead, whether he was interested just to stay behind and play nice for the Sim District Vibe Esports team. It just depends on Boltonick's intentions and what he wants for the team. Is he going to try and secure a 1-2, or is he going to try and be selfish, think for himself, and force a way through? I don't know if he's quite got the legs in order to fabricate a move as of yet. I think right now the best bet for him is just to sit back and to try and apply a bit of pressure, maybe make a mistake if he wants to win this race. And of course, right now, there's still a few laps to go. If he makes the move now, it's going to be easy for Scott McFall to launch a counter-attack. So I think maybe Olivier Bolsnick waiting for a couple more laps to pounce. So then it's a little bit more tricky for Scott McFall to get that move done. But definitely both of them fairly level-headed in terms of pace. I mean, their best lap times only separated by about a tenth or 2. Their laps consistently on a lap-by-lap basis, not separated by more than sort of 2.5 tenths apiece. You can see that Bolsnick on that time around was quicker than his teammate. So the pace between them does change quite a lot, does fluctuate a little bit. I think it could be either one of them's race.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in that garage right now, isn't it? Sim District Vibe Esports, to see whether or not they are communicating to each other, and is there going to be team orders, or is it race on? I'd say race on. Why not? When you're Zach, you'd say just go for it. If Gap Car go, Olivier is going for it. You can see he is definitely starting to apply a little bit more pressure now, because he knows time's not on his side with a couple laps to go. But it's one thing to catch, another thing to overtake. But you all know, classic overtaking will be through the sweeper and get it done in the Coca-Cola corner, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be the best opportunity, I'd say. I mean, you've just got to be heavy on the brakes. You've got to be committed on the brakes. But we've seen through the sweeper and in towards turn 2 at Coca-Cola, it's easier said than done to slam onto the brake pedal. That we've seen, before, the rear end just completely snap, and sort of with Danny Bleak a little bit earlier on, I think, where just got on the brake a little bit too hard, spun the rear end of the car around, and slid into the back of another driver. So you've got to be very, very careful about how aggressive you are on this end. You can see you still have to brake, even switching.
Yeah.
Olivier Bolsnick, no! Oh my word, just able to bring it back round, but not to enough of an extent to stay within a second of Scott McFall. Again, that is our exact point. You're coming off the sweeper, braking for it, and then straight away you're having to ask more of the brakes going into turn 2. It's such a tricky complex of corners, and we saw there Olivier Bolsnick having to go sort of cross arms to even have a remote chance of saving that car. When you're pushing behind a car and you try and push the limits a little bit more, it's so easy to overstep the mark.
That indicated to me that he was pushing at that point, doesn't it? It did look like he was like, okay, this looked maybe a possible opportunity. We just spoke about that before. Into turn 2, Coca-Cola. He had the speed difference in there, but he had to overcorrect it before he got into the corner. And very, very lucky, of course, not to A, destroy his teammate, and B, keep it out of the fence. But that's chances right now, I'd have to say. unless, of course, Scotty makes a mistake. That'll be it. That'll be the P1, P2. And you see Lewis is not even in the pictures currently at the moment, P3.
Yeah, he's a long way back, but whether he finishes a lap down or half a tenth down, he is still only one place, or well, now 2 places actually, I should say, behind Scott McFall. So he's going to be losing to the extent of 4 points. So the gap is going to be halved between Scott McFall and Lewis Archer in terms of the championship lead. So the more this race develops, it more looks likely that Scott McFall could take the championship win, but we still have the 23 or 26 lap feature. We're not actually quite sure yet after this race. The full reverse grid, of course, and the mandatory drive-through pit stop to go along with it. So 4 points as it stands going into that final race. Not a lot in it, considering the gap between first and second in that race is 5 points. So it is going to come down to pretty much whoever finishes in front.
And the difference of the times as well too, because in the practice session, I jumped in. We were here a little bit earlier, of course, when they put in the practice in. That sun was blisteringly straight into your eyes as you went into the sweeper down the main straightaway. It's not there anymore, so that's not going to be an effect for these drivers. Unfortunately, no rain in iRacing just yet. That would definitely throw a spanner in the mix. As you can see, Lewis is making his way down the main straightaway. Very, very long straight. As you can see, that's your pit lane entrance, and then look at that. Look how long that straight is. And then the pit lane exit, still not here yet, is about there. And I was hoping to get, well, because they're not doing mandatory pit stops, but I can't wait to see how that will pan out when it comes to the feature race a little bit later.
There's going to be a big difference in terms of pace as they exit, and then you've got the cars behind going pretty much the full speed, full throttle, yeah, it's going to be very, very sketchy. It's probably the worst timing for a pit lane exit, but hey ho, maybe that's why it's now a housing estate, I suppose, for Oran Prix. But yeah,
it's Australia, mate. We you know, everything can kill you in Australia, snakes and spiders and all that sort of stuff, and also pit lane exits.
Spiders, pit lanes, yeah. Sharks, spiders, snakes, and pit lanes for the Australians. You should put that in the brochure for tourists to come over. Watch out for pit lanes. You need to have your pit lane retardant or something when you come to Australia. So keep that in mind if you ever want to visit down under. Yeah, definitely.
That's what you say to the immigration officer. Like, well, you want to visit Australia because you're like, because I want to see.
I want to see the wild pit lines.
Yeah, the wild pit lanes. There you go. You got it.
Steve Irwin. Got the wild pit lines.
I'll tell you what, you got the accent down pretty well, mate. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, watch too much H2O.
Can you do a Scottish accent there for Scott McFall? But
mate, no, so you know what? I was a Scottish pirate in my year 6 play. I smashed that role. However, the Scottish do not like the English as it is, and I don't want to spark a civil war in the UK between the Scots and the English. We've had enough of that over the medieval years. I don't want to start that all over again. They really want to leave the UK. And that's
well,
not,
the
that's
United has sparked one already, my friend, because you've got Lewis, of course, the British, and Scotty, the Scotland. So that's your civil war that's brewing United Touring Car Championship.
Yeah, but then if I start it even more, it's gonna make it seem like I'm biased towards Lewis Archer, and we can't have that. Got to remain impartial in the commentary booth. However, only a couple more corners left to go for Scott McFall in this sprint race. 16 laps. He started on pole, started from second, of course, in this race. Was able to get ahead of his teammate Olivier Bolsoneg. One more corner left to go. Then the dash to the sprint, the sprint to the finish line. It's going to be race number 1, going the way of Scott McFall. 4 points chipped away at the championship lead of Lewis Archer. Comes down to just 4 points come the feature race in just a few moments' time. Olivier Bolsoneg, who was chopping and changing in terms of pace with their teammate of Scott McFall, able to come home in second. Lewis Archer a long time after that in third to complete the podium. Chris Byron fourth, and it will be Dominic Herbert that comes home to round off the top 5. But a very interesting race, I think. Gave us a good idea as to where the pace is, and it definitely is very biased towards that front too.
It is very biased, and the Audis are the commanding car as Sam will finally be the finale of this in P6 there, so got to be in it to win it, and they weren't too far off really at the end of the day. That's a great 11 or so seconds and change. But that'll be our results. We'll pull them up there for the Heat 1, of course, for you to go over, my friend. Once I get that up there in a second, it should come up about now.
No, Oh, there we go. There we go. Decent time, I suppose. A little bit delayed. After, of course, 16 laps of sprint racing, it was Scott McFall that took victory from second place on the grid, though still a synergistic vibe. eSports 1-2 with Olivier Bottenick in second place. Lewis Archer still championship leader, but the gap is half. Rounds off the podium. Chris Byam, Dominic Herbert, your top 5. Sam J. Smith on debut for P6. Mikael Lees just in behind P7. Not able to make the checker flag. Same too can be said for Stuart Gibbons, Sean Roberts, Danny Bleak, and Daniel Thomas, who didn't even make it to the first lap, unfortunately. So that brought a premature end to all of their races. We come off the back of round 15 for race 1, and then we go into round 16, of course, race number 2. That is going to be the final event of this season. 4 points in the championship. It's going to be an interesting one.
It's going to be sad to see the series wrapped up, but all good things must come to a close. Even Zachary had to leave a stage, didn't he, when you were performing? I didn't know you did some theatre work, my friend. I've had 10 plus years in theatre, so I know how you feel on that one. But you said that was a little bit earlier on. You got a bit of a warm-up before they will be ready for the main race. The final as well. Get a tear in your eye? I know you have a little tear in your eye.
Definitely get the violins out and everything. We're going to play "My Heart Will Go On" by Celine Dion over the course of the next few minutes, just to say goodbye to the UTC. No, it's not that sad because, of course, we know the promise of season 3 is there. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a sad end. However, it's a promise for a new beginning for season 3. So it's not all upsetting. It's more a see you later, I suppose, than anything. I mean, we're getting all sappy and somber. We still have one more race, and that is really going to kick off because, as you can see there, these are the delayed driver standings. This is how they were going into tonight: 166 for Lewis Archer, 158 for Scott McFall. That is now going to, of course, be a difference of only 4 points as opposed to 8. So, yeah, all to play for, definitely, over the course of the next 23 laps, 26, maybe as well, potentially. Again, we don't know because of a bit of an error in terms of the servers. So, yeah, well, we'll find out how long race 2 is, and then we'll focus on the championship.
You got to love the attitude, obviously, there of Mr. Zach. The glass is half full, he says, rather than half empty. And the constructors... Well, Simdestrika really, really bringing it right now, I'd have to say. It's going to be very close. This is, once again, before that first sprint race, so you can get crunch your numbers on that one to figure out how it will be. But multiple battles, not just in the Drivers' Championship, but also in the Constructors' Championship. We'll throw to a 5-minute break. We'll be back for the finale race. Don't you go anywhere at all, or I'll send James your way.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the United Touring Championship. We just stepped away for a 5-minute break. We're back now in the final stages of the warm-up in preparation for race number 2, the final event of what has been so far a fantastic season 2 of racing here in the touring cars. I'm joined, of course, still by Dean Biggles. I'm Zach Sweeney, talking you through all the action here today. We had an interesting race 1, of course, the gap in terms of the championship standings halved between Scott McFall and Lewis Archer. Lewis Archer going into this event, of course, this is the results from race 1. This is how they racked up. Scott McFall doing everything he could in order to close the championship gap. Lewis Archer being able to consolidate a P3 meant that the discrepancy was 4 points between the pair of them. Now the gap is 4 points going into the final race of the season. The championship's still in full swing. So, this is going to be a very interesting one indeed, Biggles. As we were saying, of course, I'm sure we haven't... I mean, if you are new into the broadcast, you've joined us probably at the best time possible.
Oh, welcome along if you have, and please give us a thumbs up and a like and subscribe, of course, for the more racing that we're going to have into the new year. Warm-up session will be coming to a closure with a couple minutes and change, and Olivia and Scotty still on the top of the timesheets on that one, although most of the drivers have not done a bit of a warm-up time because they know they have the main race to come, and that's plenty of warm-up that you're going to need to do. And you're going to have to warm your way down that very long pit lane, as we mentioned. That pit lane exit is going to be exciting. I just hope it does get exciting. And I mentioned you in chat there, Zachary, and we're both calling for no team orders at play between the Sim District team. We want to see them fight, don't we?
We do. Olivia Boltonic, of course, saying, "Oh, Scott needs the points." I don't know whether that's the Belgian just being nice to his teammate, or just the old racing driver's excuse. Oh yeah, no, I didn't mess up. I just wanted my teammate to have the points. I don't know. I've played that old chestnut once as well. The final round at Hockenheim with the Rocket Racing Stars Formula 4 eSports competition UK. I had a poor qualifying. Of course, I was already into the grand final at Bolton, so it was more of a fun race for me than anything. I thought I'd help out my mate Tenek Rodrigo, see if he could get himself inside the top 16 to be able to go. In doing so, let him through, and I was following him so close round the final corner at Hockenheim, I spun the car completely round, got over the sausage curb on the left-hand side going into the final corner, completely looped around, collected Kai Bacchini, someone else as well in the mix, completely made a fool of myself. I blamed it on the fact, I was spinning to make sure he had a gap. And somehow it worked, and that is something that's been plaguing me for the last 6 months or so. So it was finally good to get off my chest. But yeah, no, a multitude of different racing drivers' excuses when it comes to the quote unquote, I was doing him a favor. Yeah, no, we've heard that old chestnut. But yeah, fingers crossed they can spice things up a little bit. But before we go to the grid then for this race, Biggles, what are your predictions?
Ooh, that's exciting. I mean, I think Lewis is going to do what he needs to do to wrap up the championship. Scotty, of course, needs to win as much as possible. And obviously, we'd love to see Olivier take that challenge to them. And Sim District, of course, need to try to maximize their points in the constructors, because Kudo Works, in the constructors, they need to be delivering results. I must be the only caster, I think, pretty much on the planet that does not race at all. You do, James does, everybody else does. You're all race drivers and commentators. I'm just a lonely commentator. Oh, I told you about my GDR Skyline. I'll race that, mate. That's real. I don't have it anymore. What is real with the fact that they're gridding up for the final race of the season.
Yeah, and we see the 5 red lights start to go up, so we're going to take a look as to who's leading the way. It's Daniel Thomas, Danny Bleak, your front row. For one final time for Season 2, we are go! And a fantastic start there from pole position. Danny Bleak leads them underway. I don't think Daniel Thomas actually was able to take to the start. Sean Roberts already trying to have a look to the right-hand side as they run their way in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Mikael Lees having a look as well to the left-hand side, nearly 4 wide as they run their way through the sweep, but already carnage, already chaos. One of the Sim District Vibe eSports cars as well having it off. Here's Sean Roberts careering into the side of the Dutchman of Danny Bleak. Who was that Sim District car? I'm not entirely sure as to who it was, but both of them, Olivia Bolton and Scott McFall, both emerge in 4 and 5. Lewis Archer, however, emerges in 7th. A very, very chaotic start, and we didn't even need the pit lane for it.
No, we didn't. It was carnage. We'll go back to some of those replays of that, because that was 4 cars, at least, or not 5 cars. And look at that, Olivia and Scotty now, they are in 6 positions gained already, 4 and 5. But this man leading the race currently at the moment because of the reverse grid. As you'd mentioned there, we did lose down. Daniel was going to be on pole, but the car didn't turn up on time. But this man did, Mikhail, and he is currently leading. He's going to hold off Sam and Chris that are running it. P1, P2, and P3.
Do you want to know something spicy right now? As they stand, Scott McFall, 14 points. Lewis Archer, 10. The 4 points difference in the championship. It would go down to countback. And in that sense, I think it would be Scott McFall that is going to take the championship. Into the pit lane, though, does come the Scotsman taking the drive-through penalty already. Same to Lewis Archer, Sean Roberts, and Dominic Herbert also in. Same to Stuart Gibbons is coming into the pit lane. So all of these guys taking it nice and early. Maybe to get out of the opening melee of the pack racing, get some clear under their belt, and use their pace wisely. I think that's exactly what Scott McFall's trying to do.
Interesting strategy. So there's Lewis. He's still yet to go into his box. Or he's been in and out of his box. Yes, he will.
He's into his box. He didn't need to do that.
Oh, there he is.
Did he have some damage?
No, I think he did, actually. Remember all that carnage at the start? Perhaps, but they're going to come back out. He will be out ahead, obviously, of Scotty, which is very, very crucial. Scotty's back there currently at the moment. But the teammate of Olivier is going to look at to bring it to Chris. That's currently leading the race, and that's Chris in the 78 car. 7 positions gained. Look at the battle.
Oh, my word. Very, very close to contact. In fact, even making contact. Chris Byram, of course, the CUDA works in a direct fight in the championship with Sim District 5 eSports. And, of course, Chris Byram, Lewis Archer's teammate, doing his best to try and keep Olivier Boltnick at bay. Already defensive to the left-hand side, bringing it back to the right. Olivier Boltnick says, "What on earth are you doing?" Says firm on the right-hand side of the track. Danny Bleak sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:11.2, though nothing yet representative. Olivia Boltnick putting a world of pressure on the 78 Honda Civic of Chris Byram. Race winner, of course, at race 2 of COTA, has not since boasted any success, really, since then. Boltnick outside line. Chris Byram holds firm on the inside, trying to get the up and under, though, is Olivia Boltnick. Emerges to the right-hand side. It will give him the inside for the next right-hander, and indeed does so. Into the lead goes the Belgium of Olivia Boltnick, and that is him up now into first place. Doing a great job of carving their way through the field, up 9 places already in this race, and there was not really much of an answer for Chris Byram.
No, it wasn't, but obviously there are different paces. You're talking about a 4.4 KI rating versus a 2.1 KI rating, but Sam Smith is probably more of a problem. I would be worried if I was Chris, because he's approaching at a rapid pace, and he says, "I race." He certainly does race. He races some iRacing. UK and I in P3 and looking to get some pressure there. Danny Bleak is in that P4 positions after losing a couple of places. The early incident of action that we had involved about 4 cars. I think we clearly saw, didn't we, on screen what had happened. One of the drivers is going a little bit too deep into the corner. Ooh, that's just like that, actually. Because Sam can make a run. Should be able to make a run, right, isn't it? Because getting that speed up there after you go too deep is in big trouble there, and that will be, yep. Well, you know, you've casted before, James. If you leave your door open, what happens?
Someone will walk straight on through. However, Sam Smith not quite able to on that particular occasion. Chris Byram, despite the little moment of a quick little twitch, able to hold the inside line still. So Sam Smith was kept thwarted for that moment in time. The fight for second, though, between 3 cars. Chris Byram, Sam Smith and Danny Bleak all fighting over it. Danny Bleak arguably the quickest of the 3, though, at the back of the train. Oof, this is the racing that I was hoping for in race 1. We didn't quite get it, but for race 2, no better time than now. Sean Roberts from the US having a bit of a look to the right-hand side of Dominic Herbert. They are going to emerge side by side in this run towards the next right-hand hairpin, and it is going to be the American that triumphs on this particular occasion in the 33 Honda Civic, able to get himself up into 8th place. But that fight for second, I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's happening right now. Your pit stops are up on the screen at the moment, as you can see everybody who has taken them. Now, I believe this is wrong, because we did see Mr. Archer go through there as well, didn't we? We saw Archer, Lewis Archer, Scotty go in there, I think, yeah. So, I don't trust in all, don't believe everything you read, right?
Box, I think,
okay, yeah,
pit stop,
you are correct on that.
As opposed to just the drive-through, because it was Scott McFall and now Stuart Gibbons who are in the pit lane. Both of them went into their pit box. I'm still not sure as to why Scott McFall did it. Maybe it was a lapse in rational thought from him, which is like, okay, no, I don't need to go into pit box. I think it was Callum Regarton that did it as well at the Red Bull Ring, though still went on to win both races, I'm pretty sure.
There we go. I'll throw off that pit stop. That's the pit stop time. So that gives us an idea. Does that mean Chris has been through the pit stop? No, that's That's got to be inaccurate, I think. Remember, it measures. So Sammy goes a little twirly-whirly. It does measure, I think, when you get very close to the pit lane entrance. See, at the moment, it showed up there for Olivier, saying he was going to be in the pit lane entrance, but it's not, as we all know. Anyway, we'll give you that information as it goes along, but we do know Olivier is going quicker and quicker and quicker. Trying to cover off Mr. Chris in P2. Well, and Chris is a little bit down the road there. But Chris has got Danny. And apparently we heard... I thought there was nothing about no team orders are allowed. Anyway, we'll find out.
Here we will. I mean, at the moment, Danny Bleak was let through by Sam Smith on that previous lap. So obviously, Sam Smith knows that Danny Bleak is the quicker of the two drivers and potentially going to use the Dutchman. Find a way through. That's one way of doing it. Danny Bleak very aggressive to the inside, invites Smith through. So Sam Smith definitely making the better choice to allow Danny Bleak through on that particular occasion. Chris Byram is not going to be very happy about that one. And I can feel for him. That was very aggressive to the inside from Danny Bleak. However, we are going to have to take another look at that, I think. I don't know. Was it aggressive by Danny Bleak? Was it too aggressive from Chris Byram in the defense? But either way, yeah. Also, another thing about Danny Bleak's livery. No, that was just that Danny Bleak way too late on the brakes, clipped the rear right, and sent, unfortunately, Chris Byram for a spin. However, bit of a quirky livery, Danny Bleak. He's also got the GoPro sticker upside down. So that is an interesting one as well. This is Olivier Boltonic. What's happened to them? That is just them being counted as going to the pit lane.
Exactly,
1099 now is Olivier Boltonic. That is the quickest times we've seen all evening long. Very, very quick times indeed, and stretching that gap out in front.
Scotty, here we go. The battle between the two top guns in the championship, and they're right on your screen. They've been through the pit lane. But Scotty's behind Lewis, and that's a good news there for Mr. Lewis Archer, but not so great there for Scotty, but plenty of time to go in our main race. Of course, 26 laps of it, I believe, give or take on that one, as you would know with the L time. Should actually show the overall time. It doesn't really matter at this point. Yes, exactly, but yeah, it's time to race.
This is, of course, the direct fight for the championship between Scott McFall and Lewis Archer. Both of them have come into the pit lane for their mandatory drive-through. Scott McFall, however, loses that place because he came into the pit box like an absolute muppet. And again, he is Scottish, so I suppose that is correct. Again, I'm going to get absolutely flamed for that. And if I'm not back for season 3, ladies and gents, you know full well why. Scott McFall on the back of Lewis Archer. They are trying to close down on Mikael Lees, who could play an interesting factor in this championship fight. Of course, as it stands, Scott McFall gets past Lewis Archer. It's not going to be enough in terms of points to win the championship, though when everyone else in front of them comes in to take their mandatory drive-through, that is when things can get spicy, definitely. Lewis Archer, however, it is going to be in his best interest to try and keep Scott McFall at bay to the best of his ability. Down in towards turn 1, is there anything materializing here for the Scotsman, or even in towards Coca-Cola corner at turn 2? Very, very close, backing off just a little bit, and not quite close enough to go for the move in towards turn 2 on this particular occasion, but definitely the quicker of the two.
Yeah, he needs to hold off for dear life here. Yeah, you may very well be in the Stewart's room later on there for the debriefing on that one. You can't be calling people muppets, my friend. That's what they say, you don't in your own backyard. Here we go.
Do you just have a bleep button on demand?
Of course I have a button on demand. It's casting because you needed it because there is a lot of going on in some of the cockpits if it don't get the job done. But look at Scotty putting pressure right now on Lewis. Lewis shutting the door every single time. How long can he continue to shut the door before the hinges fall off?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that one. Mine doesn't fall off. Mine just gets very, very squeaky. So you definitely know when someone's walked into my room mid-broadcast because you can just hear the reek of it. However, it's the fight between Scott McFall and Lewis Archer still very, very spicy because McFall wants to find a way through sooner rather than later. Not got an infinite amount of time in this race, longer than, of course, race 1. However, in the pace difference between the pair of them, you would argue that Scott McFall is going to get a little bit desperate maybe to try and find a way through. But with Lewis Archer, I'd say his main opportunity, his main aim at this point is to get past Mikael Lees and get the car between them.
I think that's a problem, isn't it? Because this man at the moment is bringing them into play. As you can see, is tightened all those wheel nuts, hopefully. as we had the wheel nut camera angle there. You can see the brakes there glowing red, aren't they? Because you'd expect to be. You're on the brake quite a lot around here. And he wants to be on the brakes a little bit earlier, I'd say, than some of the other drivers, as he's got the pressure from behind. But as you said, you've got to just race your own race and just forget about what's happening behind you. Obviously, be very aware of it, but he's doing a solid job, I'd have to say. Mikhail, please. And it's probably more than anything frustrating these drivers behind, because Lewis Archer knows he wants to get past, and here we go. May very well be taking the opportunity. That's even early, isn't it? But I'd have to say, classic. Make it through the sweeper or the Coca-Cola corner.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, but you can see Scott McFall has got the run to the left-hand side of Lewis Archer. He's far enough ahead because of Lewis Archer's poor momentum off the final corner. Getting the slipstream as well from Mikhail Lees. Darts it back to the right-hand side in towards turn 1. Outside line for Lewis Archer, though. Sails to the outside of his championship rival. He's not giving this one up at all. The two championship rivals come together. Scott McFall through. Lewis Archer sends spinning round. That is controversial. Absolutely controversial. Scott McFall having a bit of a look to the inside of Mikhail Lees. Drama, chaos, and just, I don't even know how to describe that one. You couldn't write it, ladies and gents. Scott McFall having a bit of a look to the inside of Mikhail Lees to try and find a way through. Lewis Archer going to be hoping that Scott McFall has a hard time of finding a way through this. As they rise up over the Yokohama Bridge, it is going to be the way of Scott McFall to find a way through. Lewis Archer, though, what's he going to say about that one? Oh, it could have been, that could have been so good, but it wasn't.
And Seb's going to the pit lane. That's the reason why I have that button, my friend, because I'm sure there may be a few of those words shouted out there for the English driver, because he's still got to get past Mikhail. I thought he was very, very close to getting that one done before, but he's a little bit further back now. Now it's a little bit punishing on your rear right, but we're still early days, 11 and 26, so I wouldn't imagine that yet, but a bit of pride perhaps was punished on this one. How's that going to pan out now, my friend, for your calculator? I hope you paid attention at school with your mathematics.
I did. I got an A star actually at GCSE, so I do know my maths. On the fly though, not very, because commentators notorious, particularly Lewis McGlade, Arjuna Kankapati, Ewan O'Leary, Cameron Roger, all of us atrocious when it comes to quick fly maths. Actually, Ewan O'Leary's not too bad at all. So Lewis Archer very late on the brakes. As it stands though, Scott McFall P5. That is 14 points. Lewis Archer P7. That is 10. So it's back to how they were at the start of this race in terms of their points haul. So it is going to go down to countback, which I think goes the way of Scott McFall in terms of race victories over Lewis Archer, who's finding his way through on Mikhail Lees now, who runs a little bit wide, invites Lewis Archer through, now up in the 6th place. So as it stands right now, it's going to go the way of Lewis Archer. 14 laps left of this season. Roughly about 16 and a half minutes as well. Oh my word, it is all boiling down to this, and it's one of those. Scott McFall definitely got the measure, actually getting himself past Sam Smith, so opens that gap back up. 4th is 16, 6th is 12. So again, back to the way of Scott McFall. It's ebbing and flowing all the way through this race. Scott McFall definitely the quicker of the two drivers. However, Lewis Archer is doing his best to try and hang in there to the best of his ability.
Hold on tight, as they would say, isn't it? Back in the days of the ships. Hold fast. Well, Olivier, remember, still leading the race. He still has to box. Now, we don't know if they're going to be the team orders at pace. Olivier did say Scotty needs the points. So is he going to be helping his teammate out? Now, where he boxes and comes back out, can he somehow, if you're going to work together as a team, slow Archer down and deny Archer some crucial points paying positions here to perhaps help Scotty win the championship? That's what you can help. That's what your teammates are for, right? As Chris will enter pit lane, what can be done? That's the question, isn't it? And these drivers for the final time, because there is no other time. This is crunch time. You have to think about this. You have to calculate it right now. You have to work it out. Is it mathematically possible? Can Olivier do something to help out Scotty maximize his points, to maximize that count back, as you said, or something in the championship?
Yeah, I don't know what Olivier can do. I mean, I think because of Scott McFall and Lewis Archer, how they've made this race a bit difficult for themselves, I think Bolton is going to come out way in front of the pair of them and probably sail to a very easy victory. I mean, what is it, 34 seconds clear, maybe even more, 40 seconds clear is Olivier Bolton versus Scott McFall. You're probably only going to lose about 15, 20 seconds in the pit lane. Maybe not even that, because it's not the longest pit lane in the world here at Oran Park. No, he hasn't. Yeah. Getting teased. Honestly, wow. Yeah, interesting stuff from Oran Park. It does like to keep us on our toes. But yeah, when Olivier Bolton does finally come into the pit lane, I don't think it's going to be close enough of a gap where Olivier Balconet can just sell it as, oh yeah, I just went a little bit slow, because to actually bridge the gap, he would just have to like slam on the brakes for a good few seconds to allow Lewis Archer to catch up. So I don't think that is going to be too orders at play. He can, theoretically. However, I got in trouble for doing it once.
Is that Glock?
Back in the day.
Talk to James about it. Is that Glock? He honestly thought Glock. He thinks that Glock was almost deliberately doing that to help Lewis Hamilton win the championship. And Glock just recently, I think, came out only this year actually and said, "Look, that's just rubbish. I was struggling with the different tires." That's why we need a little bit of weather to throw a spanner in the mix for iRacing. But it's coming, because iRacing, as we know, wants to do it properly. Apparently, all the rumors that you hear about, you want to have puddles in certain corners and all that sort of stuff, so there's more water in certain areas and things like that. Have the spray and all that jazz, rather than just throw some random physics model in there. That's not going to impress professional sim racers.
Yeah, for sure. ACC does a really good job of wet weather. I think James Baldwin said that ACC does the best job of modeling it. However, for a game that has been out since I was 2, it's you would expect them to at least get somewhere with the rain. I think they are getting close to it because of how they've sort of modeled some of their patch notes, the wording of it in dry conditions. Again, it implies something new is coming soon. Yeah. I think that is. Oh my word!
This should be an opportunity right now. Yeah, there you go. So that should be no problems. That's Sam.
Lewis Archer, Sam Smith. Yeah, into the barrier. Lewis Archer now only 1 point between himself and Scott McFall. Sam Smith taking to the pit lane. Lewis Archer needs to hold firm.
Yeah, Scotty's about to take Chris. He got Chris on his side. So, an overtaken opportunity there for Lewis because of Sam making a little bit of a mistake. And now Scotty needs to get past Chris. Obviously, he needs to get past everybody. And if he can get past everybody, you think at the moment, Olivia, when he does take that pit stop, it's going to let him through for sure, right? To allow Scotty to win this race, and that's all about what Lewis Archer can do to minimize that gap difference.
Yeah, but also Chris Byram is Lewis Archer's teammate. So Chris Byram also can promote Lewis Archer that one place that he needs to maybe bridge the gap just a little bit less. I think Chris Byram actually might try and put up more of a defense versus Scott McFall.
He should, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I'm having a look at
this. Do it for England. Got 3 lions on your chest. Jules Remain, unfortunately, will always not be remaining in the British Football Club. But you know what? You can't win the World Cup, but perhaps you can win the United Touring Car Championship. I hope your teammate win the Touring Car Championship for England, but I'm not quite sure how long you can put this fight up, because you know at the moment, Scotty, and you don't fight with Scotsmen, my friend, because Scotty's are fierce fighters.
They are. And looking to the right-hand side for Scott McFall. Do it for England. Scott McFall is going to do it for Scotland. And have a bit of a look to the right-hand side now in towards turn number 1. Goes to 23 Audi. Not quite to any avail, though. Chris Byram still under very much a lot of fire. Going defensive for turn 2. Scott McFall trying to get the run now. It's still going to be the outside for the next right-hander, but he's going to try and keep Chris Byram pinned for as long as possible. Ducks out to the left-hand side. Tries to get the up and under over the curb as well. Not quite got the drive off the corner. Already going defensive. Chris Byram. Scott McFall forced back to the left-hand side. Tries again to try and get the switchback, but as the track opens up on the exit, you rise up towards the Yokohama Bridge, and Lewis Archer closing the gap now sub 4 seconds. Scott McFall having a very hard time of finding a way past Chris Byram.
I love this teammate battle, teammate wars, as the sun is setting for the final round here in Australia, in New South Wales for the United Touring Car Championship, and it's going to settle on somebody. We're actually rotating away from the sun. My apologies about that one, of course, if you want to be scientific, but don't worry about that. I don't think Mr. Scotty at the moment and Mr. Chris are thinking science. They're thinking speed and pace and potential, helping out their teammates in the championship.
Yeah, for sure. Chris Byram did a fantastic job of doing that, being very much the Minister of Defence. Scott McFall has a lot to lose. He's riding a lot on this move. He can't just send the move. Oh my word! Chris Byram sideways. If he can keep that under wraps, he's going to be great. Scott McFall, though, still finds the way through, slips his way past up into 3rd place. Now the pace goes to Scott McFall. The gap between the two is 2 places. But Chris Byram, 3 seconds back to his teammates. Surely he's going to wait up and bridge that gap 1 extra place. Oh, it was such a good defense from Chris Byram until it wasn't.
He did his job. As you said, Ministry of Defense there for the Kuda Works team. And it's helped Lewis come into play. Now, Lewis is going to see, well, I'm riding on board with Lewis right now. He can see those cars up the road. So he's well aware of what his target subjects are. He needs to continue to do his best and race for England. It's very difficult, of course, this track with those elevation changes. You can see he's fighting with the car. But he has known that he's made that mandatory pit stop. We knows that Olivier hasn't. Danny Bleak as well. I don't think Danny has made that pit stop. Currently the 63 car in P2. And apart from that, Scotty's the man that's leading, essentially, but pending those pit stop times you mentioned, because we're not quite 100% sure what those pit stop times are. We exactly to come back out in front, but I'll tell you the gap. I'll show you the gap at the moment. And you can see 40 seconds to Scotty. So I think Olivier may very well have covered off that, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think that is, it's going to be a big gap between Olivier Boltonic and Scott McFall. I think, is that finally into the pit lane? That seems to be long enough on.
Yes,
that
it is.
It's going to be into the pit lane for Olivier Boltonic. Danny Bleak as well coming in. So we will see how long you have to spend driving through, how much time you lose as well. Scott McFall is going to need to get past his teammate of Olivier Boltonic to have any chance of winning this championship. Of course, we will have a look as to the points and how they rack up. Though Lewis Archer with his teammate of Chris Barham, they are in a voice chat here on the UTC Discord. Get yourself on to the UTC Discord to get yourself involved potentially for Season 3. If you are interested, should be within the next couple of months or so, definitely over into the new year. Olivier Boltonic, though, is stopped in their pit box, maybe for this exact reason, to wait for Scott McFall.
Here comes Scotty. Down there at the moment, where's Olivier? Still in the pit stop. They're coming down the main straightaway. You can see them there. To your right on the pictures. That's easy pickings. There goes Chris. There goes Scott. And Lewis right now too. Bang. Pass. So Olivier will be behind them. But Danny came out, if I'm not mistaken, he's come out ahead, hasn't he?
He has indeed, because he didn't stop. He just went for the drive through. Danny Bleak has been very quick at this race. His best lap of 109.93, matching Olivier Boltonic. So very quick is the Dutchman, and very much deserving to be leading the race with sort of the final third left to go. Olivier Boltonic down in 6th behind Lewis Archer, so the gift of giving Scott McFall that place has gone the way also of Lewis Archer in the same respect. As it stands, 2nd place for Scott McFall, 20 points. 4th place for Lewis Archer, 16 points. So still 4-point discrepancy. Lewis Archer still has his wild card at play of Chris Barham. If Chris Barham wants to play ball and give his teammate the championship, again, it remains to be seen what happens over the next 6.5 laps or so. But what remains to be almost certain is the fact that Danny Bleak is perfectly poised to win this race. As it stands, Scott McFall will be your Season 2 champion.
What can Scotty has to get past, right? He has to win. And even with Lewis Archer in P4, would that be enough? I mean, we know Chris may very well let Lewis Archer through if there is that final. If somehow Scotty finds a way, a 10-second gap and 6 laps to get to lead, will that be enough for Scotty? If the current positions are with Lewis in P4 or not?
Right now, Scott McFall will win the championship, so he doesn't need to close the gap. He doesn't need to push, and it is going to be so tricky, especially around the short lap that is Oran Park. It's so tricky, and
so Chris needs a P3.
So Chris needs to give Lewis Archer that P3 if Archer wants to win the championship. Yeah, that's how it stands at the moment. Because right now they would be level on points in the championship standings, but on countback it would go the way of Scott McFall. Yes. Oh,
that's a lot of pressure for Mr. Chris as a teammate. Wonder what the team orders are at play there, isn't it? Now, is he going to be doing a Sebastian Vettel there, or even recently, of course, Max Verstappen there? Are you going to help your teammate out or not? Obviously, it wasn't the case with Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel, but we have seen the case of Max Verstappen not helping and getting a lot of bad press for that one. Of course, helping his teammate in his championship, which he ended up losing, of course, to our Monegasque driver. Can't remember his name right now, but I think we all know what we're talking about. So, yeah, what do you think is at play here? And remember, too, Lewis Archer is the boss man, isn't he, teammate? So, do you want to mess with your boss too much?
No, I wouldn't. And then again, I've slandered everyone on this grid probably at least once over the course of this season. So I mean, I don't know who I've annoyed. That is of course my job as the commentator though, because there's nothing they can do about it. They're racing. They're not in the YouTube chat. They can't respond at all.
Yeah, true. You got the upper hand.
I've got the upper hand. I can slander whoever I like, and also other commentators as well. I can completely flame them because chances are they're not even watching. So I can also do
All
that
right,
as well.
go say something really nice about James or not.
Really nice, yeah, James, mate.
Yeah.
You're an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And,
hey, he's up for the award too, mate. We still haven't got that confirmed as well.
VSO Simi. He's the top 5 nominee. Of course, those awards will be handed out, I think, over the next few days. I'm not actually sure on the exact date, but just to me, inside the top 5, whether or not he does get the Simi is another thing. And he's up against some big names.
He better, otherwise we'll commentate curse the other commentators.
Yeah. I don't believe in such thing as commentators curse. Only bad driving when it comes to that. So yeah, it's a coincidence. Commentators coincidence, I suppose, to be the quirky guy. But yeah, no, I mean James is up against Arjuna Kankapati, Lewis McGlade, Luke Crane is in there. Like I worked with all 3 of them guys. They are lovely people for sure. And then, of course, I think Paul Jeffrey as well is the final of the 5, and James is amongst some very, very big names. So to be up there is very much an achievement in of itself. Whether or not he does get this in me is another
And James
thing.
only been doing it for a few years, remember? These other guys have been around the block a little bit more. So
he has
rising, shining talent there of James. Yeah, I'll be working with some of those casters tomorrow as well. But let's have a look at this. Couple laps to go. I don't think there's a bit of a gap difference unless you're going to see someone like Chris go through a pit lane or something and just hand this one. What do you think? It's 4-second gap.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's Chris Byram. He's going to want, of course, to get the podium, but also Lewis Archer going to be in his ear saying, "Oh, mate, come on, let's win the championship." Unless Lewis Archer isn't too bothered. Yeah, do it for England. Do it for your fellow countrymen. No, I don't think any of us after the World Cup shambles. I don't think any of us have. We've lost all patriotism whatsoever. But then again, I guess the quarterfinals weren't exactly.
You can't give it to that penalty kick, of course, going a little bit pear-shaped. David Beckham's done that before in the past, so it's a British thing.
It is. We're the international bottle jobs. Let's put it that way. But then again, we've probably ruled your country at least once. So you've beaten us at football, but we owned you at some point.
Yeah, football's like the sixth most popular game, soccer in Australia, and we still make the World Cup. That's not too bad considering that soccer's the #1 sport in the United Kingdom, or at least number 2, maybe cricket.
At least you're there. You know who isn't at the World Cup?
Who?
Scotland.
That's good. All right, you're rubbing salt into the wounds, but he may be rubbing the trophy and the bubbly stuff on top of the podium unless something changes in this situation between Mr. Chris in P3 and Mr. Lewis in P4. That are teammates. Yeah. How's that going to work out for the team championship as well, too? I think that Sim District may very well wrap that one up at the moment with Scotty in P2.
I don't know, because Kudelworks were ahead, and Sim District, we need a discrepancy of 2 points. I wasn't actually following the team championship so much, so I'm sure that would be something that's
you have one job.
If you ask, yeah, I know, I've got one job and has to keep on track of the standings. But no, I never really follow the team championship so much. I think the focus should definitely be more on the drivers. So if you are that interested in how the team championship will wrap up, definitely do take a visit to the United Touring Championships Discord and have a look when those standings do get posted. What I can tell at the moment is Scott McFall will win the championship on countback unless something drastic changes between Lewis Archer and Chris Byram. Over the last couple of laps, Lewis Archer able to gain... Oh!
Scott's going in the pit lane. Why? This has definitely changed something. And that will allow Lewis to go scooting on by right there. What has gone on?
I'm taken aback by this one. This is handing it on a silver platter to Lewis Archer. I mean, Chris Byram was the last lap 11.7 for Chris Byram, 10.9 for Lewis Archer. So the gap is coming down over the next couple of laps with 2 laps left of this race of this season. I'm taken aback. No, surely not, because he came into pit lane earlier on, and these touring cars can go like a good hour 40.
Oh, but he went really early, but then so did Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah. These touring cars, unless there's changes to the fuel loads, they can go well over an hour. However, this is the checkered flag. It's going to be a win for Danny Bleak, very deservedly so. Takes the checkered flag for the final race of the season here for the United Touring Championship. Round number 16 goes the way of the Dutchman. However, all eyes on the next 2 drivers to cross the line for Kudelworks eSports. Chris Byram will come home in second place, gives the place to Lewis Archer, who will wait to rise over the final corner to take the crown, to take the championship of season 2. He joins the Hall of Fame alongside alongside Olivier Boltonic, your Season 1 championship winner, Lewis Archer, champion of the touring cars, comes home in second place to round off what has been a fantastic season of consistency for the Englishman. I want to know what happened to Scott McFall. I don't know what's going on there. How much has Lewis Archer slid into his back pocket? Scott McFall not even going to take to the checkered flag.
No, he won't.
How? I don't know. Whether that was fuel loads, I seriously have no idea as to what would have prompted him to go into the pit lane. Either way, as they stand on track, as they cross the line, it does go the way of Lewis Archer, who takes the championship victory. That was an interesting race.
That is absolutely interesting because we are confused. But either way, the results are on the screen. Good on Danny. Danny came in there and did a great job there for the Netherlands. I told you to don't look. Always keep an eye out there for those Dutch drivers and keep an eye out for Danny if he does join next season. Those results for us there, please.
26 laps of racing to round off what the Season 2 of the United Touring chart. Why haven't I been able to say that right all evening? The United Touring Championship, Season number 2, and the final round goes the way of Danny Bleak for Rockstar Sim Racing. He wins 22 seconds clear of Lewis Archer, your champion of Season 2. Chris Byram, his teammate, will round off the podium. Dominic Herbert, P4. Olivier Boltonic, a disappointing P5. Scott McFall, I don't know what to say. P6, Mikael Lee, 7th, Sam Smith, Sean Roberts, Stuart Gibbons, and Daniel Thomas round off your grid. Hopefully we can take a number of interviews, fingers crossed, for the next couple of moments, if we can get the likes of Lewis Archer maybe into the commentary booth just to have a quick word with us. But until then, yeah, well, that was, again, as we say, a weird, peculiar way to get this season ended.
It absolutely is, and that's the reason why you'll definitely have to hang around so that we can find out from the drivers and, of course, celebrate and congratulate the drivers that wrapped this championship up. And we'll also give the information as to happen for the team championship and all that other jazz. We'll be back after a short break for the finale interviews. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back for the final small little segment before the end of this season. We're going to take a quick word with the couple of drivers over the course of the next couple of moments, just to see if anyone wants to have a word. At the moment, we've only got Danny Bleak in the waiting room, so we're going to take a quick word. Also, Lewis Archer now joining us. So we'll take a quick word with the race victor of race number 2, Danny Bleak. Up and down evening for you, it must be said, I'd say, because race 1 didn't quite go your way. The pace was there all the way through, but then you come into race number 2. You set the world alight with that one.
First race, yeah, the first race was a bit, I was too. That's because the first 6 months now I doing the iRacing, and you are in the beginning you are you want too much. But have a little bit more patience in the races. But the second race was good, and the pace was also good. Managed the pace, and it was okay.
Yeah, nice one. Very, very should be very, very proud of yourself, because it was a fair margin to Lewis Archer in second place. 22.5 seconds was the final interval. What did you think of Oran Park? It's a circuit that not many people are too familiar with down in Sydney. What did you make of the circuit? Did you enjoy driving it?
Yeah, enjoying a lot, because when I started like a rookie, I drove with the MX-5 Mazda many laps here, and yeah, I like this track. Very nice flow, and braking points are very difficult. And yeah, off track is very very close. But yeah, it's a great circuit to drive with these cars.
Yeah, for sure. It is a nice one indeed.
Yeah.
Talking about just a reflection over the course of the last sort of 8 weeks, how have you felt about your performance this season? Of course, as you say, you're new to iRacing. Was it a good learning curve for you? Did you enjoy your experience over season 2?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Many more experience now. So yeah, in the beginning, yeah, a little bit more patience in the races, maybe in the first 2 laps. But yeah, you don't want to lose it in the first corners. But yeah, it's a bit yeah, have to make that one that part better.
Danny, I have a
For
quick
sure.
question for you because you're obviously a Dutch driver and Max Verstappen, of course, the 2 times world championship. But we had a bit of a question there, didn't we, Zach? Why the Monster Energy that actually sponsors Mr.
Yeah.
the arch rival, essentially, in the championship?
No,
Mr.
I
Lewis
saw this.
Hamilton?
Yeah, I saw this livery, and it is the hoonigan livery, and yeah, I take that one. But I'm of the generation of Lewis, and yeah, if I look to the both of them, both have the respect to be very good drivers. But yeah, I take this livery because I like it. I like the colors.
Do you like bitterbollens? Is it bitterbollens? What's that that Dutch treat?
Yeah, frikandel, bitterballen.
There you go.
kaasvlees.
Yeah, I like, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
GG's, mate, and looking forward to your pace in the next season because you bring it today, no doubt. 63 cars
Yeah.
we're watching.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Excellent.
Take care, Danny, and fingers crossed we'll see you for season 3. Best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
So what we'll do now is we're going to drag in our championship winner of season 2, Lewis Archer, the big man at the top. That was a weird way to win your first title. If you
Mr.
can hear us
Lewis,
at the
are
moment.
you-
Oh,
are you-
Lewis Archer, here he is.
Sorry,
He is here.
Yeah, I was pushed to talk and I didn't. Press
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, like me and Chris have been racing a long time together, and this is not the first championship we've either him or I have come up for grabs for. We've fought for a couple of championships, and like the way they've gone down in the past has been like a lot more legit than that. Like I'm genuinely gutted for Olivia and Scott. I don't know what to suggest or do. Like we didn't make any errors. The sessions were set up weeks ago, and like coming into the session, once the sessions actually launched, I think it was Dominic that actually noticed that the count had changed. I think we were first made aware when qualifying was 30 minutes. So that, and then I jumped out and had a look at the sessions just to see how much of it has changed, and it was only those 2 things, even though the description wrote 23 laps.
Yeah.
For some reason there was 26, and like obviously I and a few others changed it, and Olivia and Scott didn't see the message, and I could have been louder about it. I could have said on the radio. I was just focused and getting on with the ting. So yeah, definitely mixed bag. Like I'm happy. I'm gonna work out the math anyway because I think it was damn close anyway. Danny was gonna win, Scott was gonna come second, me and Chris were gonna invert. Like it was gonna be shake and bake for a couple points anyway.
Yeah.
So you know, and then it obviously just blew it out. Like I think Olivia, if he'd have won, and Scott had come third and I'd have come fourth, that's what needs to be theorized anyway.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you won it. You won it at the end of the day. I guess a bittersweet way to win it. I mean, we saw right at the end it was going to go the way of Scott McFall because he has got more wins than you over the course of this season. If I do remember correctly, so he would have taken the championship on countback. But do you know exactly? Do you know what happened to Scott McFall on those last couple of laps to come into the pit lane? Again, he was in the waiting room, so we were going to grab a word of him, but he seems to have disappeared now. Do you know what was going through your head when you saw him come into the pit lane?
Yeah, I just instantly knew what had happened. Like I heard Olivia say on the radio once he realised, obviously once his pit had told him that his fuel load wasn't going to get to the end of the race. I thought, no, like he was 20 points or something behind when we came into that anyway. So I was pretty like surprised that none of his instruments or whatever, we all use different stuff to monitor what we're doing in the race. Something hadn't told him that it was 26 laps. But hey, and then Scott came in as well, and I just thought, no, they've run real lean setups that obviously only got 1 litre to spare or something silly like that, and neither of them made it to the end. So I'm gutted for them, to be honest.
That's what the information that has come out there in the chat. We will bring Scotty because he's back in here. So yeah, Lewis, if you don't mind hanging around, we'll bring him in here so you guys can actually ask and chat about that one too.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to come back to you, my friend, as the UTC World Drivers Champion. And then we can clarify all this for everybody that's been tuning in, of course. Give us a thumbs up and a like. So, yeah, Lewis, if you don't mind, we will get Mr. Scotty in here and Olivier.
Absolutely.
And then we'll have a bit of a chat, a bit of a yarn, pop the bubbly stuff, taste the champagne, and then we'll find out exactly what happened. For sure, there, if you don't mind dragging him in there, Zach.
Yeah.
So, Scott McFall, you not the best of feelings for that second race. Of course, you came off the back of winning race number 1. What happened for race 2? A little bit of an anonymous situation in terms of the race length. Didn't quite go your way at the end of things, though, unfortunately.
I've already spoke to the side of things about it, to be fair. I'll not say too much on it, to be totally honest. I think where it failed was the admin or the league hosts actually tagging or pinging all the drivers within the session to notify them of a change. Instead, looking over the Discord, there's a couple of minutes prior to the actual race start, there is somebody had mentioned it, but there is no tag, and possibly a couple of people have noticed it. For me, the only side it failed on was communication, to be fair, and I've already said to Luce, I don't really care for it that much, to be fair. It is what it is. I congratulate them on the win, but it would have been a lot better standard and a lot better if everybody was at least tagged by an admin member to be on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And again, it was just a case of miscommunication in a sense. And at the end of the day, only human mistakes will happen. So definitely something to reflect back on and look forward on for season 3. But as a whole, of course, a bittersweet ending towards the end of it. Your season as a whole, you were always at the front. You can't say anything necessarily bad about your season personally. As a whole, a lot of good moments to look back on.
Yeah, I did say there possibly was, but yeah, you already said it for yourself for the ending. It's a bit, I'll not dwell on it, but it's disappointing for it to go in the sort of politics side of things where it's went.
Yeah.
But congratulations still to everybody involved with seeing it out, and obviously yourselves doing a great job with the commentary.
Very entertaining, Scotty. Your teammate, Olivier, you guys were working very much together towards the end there. And you elected to box very early, and the same thing as well happened with Lewis and a few of the other drivers went in there. Was there anything of Olivier that probably do anything to help you out towards the end there? Was it going to be team orders? Because it didn't look like there was any team orders in the sprint race.
No, I just Ollie made the mistake into turn 1, and then after that he was happy just to sit and follow the draft, to be fair. Race 2, there was obviously a bit of carnage for what I remember at the start. I was lucky to get through it as well. And I think Ollie got a penalty heading into the pit stop, which gave him a stop and hold, which was unfortunate. But for race 2, no, there was no direct sort of team orders or strategy. We were just going for the race to see how it planned out.
You're super quick, obviously, in that last race, apart from obviously the little moment that happened at the end there. But nothing denied the pace that you had, and everything was going your way. Even Zachary tried his best Scottish accent. You should watch that one back in the stream there, because I was asking him about doing that. But absolutely great driving, mate. Yeah, you should be very happy because the results didn't go exactly the way they are. But you can't take the speed away and the skill driving that you had, and you guys very lucky at the start of the feature race as well, too. Both of you gaining a ton of positions after there was a bit of a carnage between, I think, 4 cars at the very early part of the race.
Yeah, seen it going into turn 1. It was just a case of take it easy and sit off everybody and see where the gaps opened up.
Yeah, it's all here. There's a replay of all that action that happened. Look at that. You could watch you, mate. You backed off a little bit and just say car, and car off. And there's you and your teammate smiling to survive. It could have all gone pole-shaped, of course, another way. You could have been in the fence of that. Wouldn't have denied your pace to climb your way back up in there. But it's good to see lovely racing and doing it for Scotland, my friend.
No, I appreciate it. It's been as I said, it's been a well-organised league. It's just a shame for it to go the way it went for the end. But racing's racing.
For sure. Can we expect to see you back for season 3 then? Of course, a bit of a drop off towards the end of season 2, but great promise for season 3. Can we expect to see you back to try and redeem this championship?
Yeah, we can always see how it goes. The only thing that will hold me back for kind of getting the race under my belt, which took effect in the last few rounds of this season, is just childcare. I've got my wee one now at the weekend, so It just comes down to whether I can get her sleeping in time, and hopefully she stays sleeping for the racing.
Right. Okay. I've got a bit of an interruption here. I've just sat and crunched some numbers post this unfolding. So if Scott had have finished second in the feature race and Olivia had have finished first in the feature race, which was how it was going to pan out, me and Chris inverted on the last lap like we were supposed to, and I finished third. Sorry, Danny Bleak was in there, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, can we bring Chris in real quick there? Because Chris Bryan obviously was super helpful
So
to you
Scott-
towards the end, if you don't mind. Here we go, Chris. Yeah, just go repeat that question there, St. Louis.
On provisional math, Scott finishes with 199 points if unaltered. I finish with 200, and Olivia finishes with 188. So that's what I've got if everybody finished where they were supposed to finish. I'm going to double, triple, quadruple check that once you've gone through all the safety points and who's got the safety. Because if it's ones and twos, that may have made the difference. So, but yeah, provisional math, I take it by 1 point anyway. But I need to make sure that that's actually the case. Danny got fastest lap. I think he was going to win anyway because he started on pole, didn't he?
Yeah, Danny did wrap that
He
one
was
up. Yeah,
gone.
solid job there for the Dutch driver.
Yep, he was absolutely.
I don't know how
gone.
he did manage that pit stop strategy. He came out there. He boxed, I think, at the same time that Olivia did, and just bang.
The only point I know I took was the qualifying for the first, I believe.
Oh yeah, did it do that? Who got
Oh,
pole?
this is interesting, guys.
No,
It is not over yet here. This is not decided
Olivia
just
got
yet.
pole.
No,
Olivia
it was,
got
me.
Scott got 2 zeros as safest driver.
Was it
Ooh,
not Scott that got pole position?
It was you that got pole. Olivia.
No. Olivia got pole position.
Yep.
Hang on, wait there.
All right, hang on. We might have to do
Fastest lap went to
this.
Scott.
We might have to do this,
and
guys.
then
We
you
might
get
have to do a 5
3
lap
points.
sprint. A 5 lap sprint
And then he
between
gets-
Lewis and Scott to decide the overall finale.
No, you're right. It was Ollie. It was Ollie. Right.
And then you got 2 zeros, so I think you got 3 there, but I'm still. Let me just sort it out. This is 16.
Yeah, and Chris as well too. You obviously it was seen towards the end there you were going to yield and allow Lewis the maximum possibility of points there for your teammate.
Nah, was a fuck, mate. Was a fuck. He was in trouble.
I got you. Don't worry.
Fastest lap in the first race was all I got there.
Yeah, we're going to nil and void that one though, because I saw you cut in the corner.
Oh, all right.
I'm joking.
How spicy is this going to get towards next season there, Zachary? With
The gloves on, boys. That's
fireworks
the
are
only
off already for New Year's, and we're not even there
Yeah.
yet.
It's given you the point. So Scott, the tally, your fastest lap for the Heat 1 is already there. It's just a safety point if you got that, which is looking like you did.
10.
crunching the numbers is Chris Byram at the moment. This is what a way to end the season in the on the calculator. This is wow, interesting one.
This is why you have
for
to trust
sure.
in some
No, Oliver gets
European
1
schooling.
point for safest driver.
Me and Ollie with 0 instance on the heat one.
So does you said then you get 2 and then you get another 1 for being safest driver overall.
So
of
I
the
think,
event.
guys, what we'll do is obviously share
Zero
all
on the
this
Twitter.
on the social media out there, and also share the way that everybody can sign up to join the new season. And then obviously you have to join the Discord, join all the links below there to find out. Let's make it a surprise to find out the overall results. We won't declare it here on stream because they're still obviously calculating it. But check all the social media platforms, give us a thumbs up, and follow. And definitely join the Discord to be a part of the party. And then you're going to find out those results, right, Zach? I think that's the best way to keep the suspense.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a
sure.
part 2 of a movie, isn't it?
Just completely cut the stream off right now, and just leave it everyone. Let you guys figure it out, and then of course leave it. But it's awkward just to leave the stream with an inconclusive answer.
I know.
But
We'll wait.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for these guys, it's a headache. Again, I'm sure it's more of a headache for you guys than it is us to only have to spectate it, not necessarily be involved in it. But just a quick question for you, Lewis. I mean, if you're not too busy, just of course leaving season 2 behind just for a moment. You've been talking about the plans for season 3. Can you give us any insight as to what's to come?
Yeah. Just a bit more prep time, and we're gonna change the way we approach season 3. Not massively. The format's going to change. The track count, the amount of tracks will change. The amount of rounds will stay the same. The night will stay the same. The time will stay the same. All of the formatting will stay the same. We'll just obviously visit a bunch of different tracks. Maybe some that we've visited before in season 1. Points will stay the same. Everything will stay the same. We just got a larger admin team and you'll see a lot more of the Discord in order before we start.
Can we get some weather?
The weather is generated. We did have that obviously that choice in all of these sessions, and with each of them, we've just chose to go with random weather on the correct date. So there's a window variation as to what can be.
I want to throw something to the chat real quick for everybody, drivers as well. Overall, best livery for the year. Anybody would like? I'll let the chat decide that one too. Because there's been some great liveries between the teams. I wanted to see what anybody's thought of that, because there's other little elements at play. The liveries take a little bit of time and they look great as well.
Yep. Obviously, everyone will have their opinion on that. There was a lot more cars on the grid than there was when we finished. So looking back, there's probably some quite exciting ones that aren't there anymore. Drivers have changed cars and things like that as well. So maybe there could be a vote. Absolutely.
Where's my GTR Skyline, by the way, too? Because it won here in 91, 92, 93. I don't see it on the grid.
I don't think this track's here anymore, does it?
It's a real estate now, because it's out of suburbs of Sydney, and it's just worth too much more money for multi-million-dollar houses than it is for a racetrack. But yeah,
it's gone.
But the streets remain. They are named in the sales. You can watch that back on the stream earlier. We were mentioning all about that one there, Zachary. Zach, I call you Zachary, but Zach, we go way back.
It's good old Zachary anyway. So you're all right. But yeah, no. That season it was very interesting. Again, I did love the how the UTC just sort of the action that we all had all the way through the season. So great season, very successful season, albeit with a very controversial end and an awkward one at that. But yeah, I mean, onwards and upwards. I think that also a good plan for season 3 is to get the everyone sorted and trained into all the admins as well. Would not be a too bad idea, would it, Lewis?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Just a final apology for the mess up there. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with it. But
I've got Lewis on 200, Scott on 192, Olivier on 178, and then me on 171.
What, final positions now or after we adjust?
Not after adjusting. What do you mean adjusting? So what are you going to adjust?
I don't know. We just need to go.
What do you mean with all the safety? That's with safety driver poll and all that taken into account.
The results for me are the results for the race finished. So that is what it is, guys. Again, just
so can we clarify that again for the final top 3?
So Lewis in first with 200, Scott in second with 192, Olivier in third with 178.
Crazy end. I still might message you after this, Scott. See what happens.
No, mate, it is how it is. But for a chit chat, then definitely, of course, if you want. It's no problem.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. We've been just for the streams purposes. I met Scott a very long time ago, probably about 6 years ago on the racetrack on a game, long time ago. We had some great races then. He stepped into the world of iRacing before I did. So it's just great to be here with Scott now at this point. Likewise, Chris, same sort of time. It's just great to live in a virtual world with these drivers for years and years and years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Mate, good luck in the future.
No, let's say I'm going to cut it short anyway, because I need to go and check my daughter. But
yeah, mate, no
well
worries.
done, guys, and thanks again for the stream and the racing, and we'll see how next season looks.
Yeah, man, peace, and I'll catch you then.
Take it easy, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot up as well. My little one's just woken up as well. Class timing. But yeah, it's been great. And thank you guys for doing the stream. Obviously, a shame that James couldn't be here.
Yeah, we gave him the weekend off. He's been a busy camper, of course. There's up on the screen at the moment. First for Lewis, 200 points there. Second, Scotty, 192 points. And Olivier in a third there, 172 points. That's what I heard anyway. And that it is what it is. And yes, once again, James would have enjoyed this one. He'll be watching this one. James, hello. We'll definitely see you hopefully back there for the next season. And it's been a pleasure there for Lewis, what you've been putting on all show. The boss man, of course, we had to suck up to the boss man. But really, in all honesty, mate, it's a lot of work to run a league, and a lot of work to run a league and drive in a league, and a lot of work to win multiple championships on top of it. So enjoy it and celebration, mate. Christmas has come early for you. Congratulations.
Yeah. No worries. I'm going to shoot as well. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for doing this every single time. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in season 3.
There you go. Thank you. Zachary, you get to wrap this one up so that we can then and go get Santa's wish list all ordered there. It's been
Yeah. Well, we've heard from the likes of Chris Byram, Scott McFall, Danny Bleak as well, and of course the big man Lewis Archer, who was, well, very awkwardly taking the championship win. And of course, that was a very awkward affair in the interview booth, with people trying to work out the maths, talking amongst themselves as well. Not the most orthodox way of doing the interviews, but hey, it's the UTC when there's anything ever orthodox. That is going to wrap up the action in terms of season 2. It's been myself, Zach Sweeney, James Parfit for the majority of the season, with, of course, the introduction of Dean Hopton, Mr. Biggles, for a couple of rounds. He joined us for Monza, and here, of course, in Australia for Oran Park and the season finale. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk you through all of the action here, ladies and gents, here for the United Touring Championship. Interesting way to end the season, but big promise for season number 3. Take care. Of course, make sure you're subscribed to the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel with the bell on. Like the stream if you've enjoyed. Make sure you stay up to date with everything that is sim racing here on the channel. Of course, United Esports Live as well is where you're going to be watching this this YouTube Live. Take care on this one as well, just to make sure you're up to date for when season 3 starts to air. It will for sure promise absolute greatness. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, take care. Enjoy the Christmas holidays if you do decide to celebrate. Take care. We'll see you soon, and bye-bye.